dungeons suddenly appeared in the world, and Kyomi Aki was one of the fastest S-class assassins. And dangerous. On paper, he was the elite. In reality, a dead-end path. At first, the assassin seemed like a perfect choice. High critical hits, high speed, and instant kills. But as the years went by, it became clear that this profession had a limit. Attack power didn't grow, magic was weak, and survival depended less and less on oneself, and more on equipment. This realization came too late, just as he had already reached the peak of his development. And it was at that moment that he faced a creature that not only threatened humanity, but could destroy it completely. He defeated it, but at the cost of his own life. However, instead of dying, he received something far more dangerous. A return 20 years to the past, along with the reward for a quest that was impossible to obtain at the start. This time he won't act blindly. With knowledge of the future, a quest system, and cold calculation, he begins to build the perfect path to power, step by step, without making unnecessary mistakes. This is not just a story of reincarnation, but of what happens when the experience of the end of the road appears at its very beginning. This content is an original narrative retelling by the channel author, created with a unique style, structure, and approach. It does not literally reproduce the original material and constitutes a transformative work. He was betrayed by his friends. Even though he was S-rank, he was a failure. His assassin class was bad. When the most powerful S-rank boss appeared, they used him as bait. But upon discovering that the boss could talk and wanted to destroy the earth, the assassin gave his all alone. In the end, the boss returned to his world, but the boy was on the verge of death, and a system appeared before him. And then he went back in time. His beloved sister was still alive, and this story is going to appear more and more like just Ladolin. Now he needs to become an adventurer to save her from illness. Upon returning home, the system appeared to him again and told him to do 10 uphill runs, 20 push-ups, and greet 30 people. He quickly began his arduous task of greeting people. Soon he started running and finished doing push-ups. After completing everything, he went straight to level 3. That same day, he went to register as an adventurer. He was indeed level 3. That was something that would normally take 3 months to achieve. Now he had to choose a class wisely. In his past life, he had been a failed assassin, but this time he decided not to select any class. Everyone mocked him. After finishing, he ran to his shop and bought the biggest sword he saw. It was almost bigger than himself. Size isn't everything. Then he went to the beginner dungeon, but this time he went alone. He quickly took down some F-rank slimes and skeletons, filling his bag with magic stones. Suddenly, a rare E-class monster appeared. The monster was strong, but he hadn't omitted choosing a class for no reason. In 15 years, it would be discovered that someone without a class could evolve 10 times faster than any class. When he returned to the guild, the receptionist was impressed by the amount of magic stones he brought with him. An adventurer thought he was lying about killing a rare E-rank monster. He tried to intimidate him, but he damaged his arm. Now he will have to practice not masturbating for a month for being reckless. Our hero, on the other hand, has a wallet full of money to spend on Roblox. The system suddenly assigns him strange quests. This time, he has to sing in front of the station for 5 minutes. And there he was, our shaper version of Michael Jackson, delivering his daily dose of second-hand embarrassment. As a reward for embarrassing himself, he received an appraisal ring. Back to the dungeon. He cultivated for hours, reaching level 4, then invested all his points in luck. He filled his bag with stones, as usual, and returned to the guild this time. A man wanted to invite him to a dungeon raid. The Abyss dungeon, S-rank, but when he told the guy that he was just a novice, and that he had no class, he became the laughingstock of everyone. The man scoffed in his face, and left saying he was nothing but a loser. Our hero, on the other hand, doesn't care, as his bag is full of stones. As always, however, this time, he caught the attention of someone else, with legs as thick as a construction worker's. A sexy redhead appeared to greet him. She was very interested in him for being low class, imagining there must be some hidden advantage behind it. But it's a classic state secret, and she likes how meticulous and intelligent he is. It was Alice Takagi, from the Carnelian Rage clan, an S-rank adventurer. Even the receptionist was surprised that the boy was always getting into trouble. Alice, like the other man, also wants him to join the Abyss dungeon. Takoyaki asks if that's okay, even though he has no class, and she tells him he's welcome anytime. And whenever he's strong, the boy is very suspicious, but he can't prove anything. In the end, he accepts the girl's request. Wouldn't we do it for a redhead, right? She also told him she would send him the permit to enter a D-rank dungeon. Suddenly, the employee said she would process the payment. The redhead was impressed to learn that he had earned 90,000 fans just from the beginner dungeon. With pockets full, he had already won over the fortune teller, who started asking him to buy her candy. So we headed to the D-rank dungeon. Although he was wearing warm clothes, he didn't expect the air conditioning to be at 16 degrees. Suddenly, the first D-rank monster appeared. It's time to farm. The two were about to engage in a fierce battle, but the system interrupted our boy. Once again, he had to hold his breath for 60 seconds, and Kiani was very annoyed by such a ridiculous quest. Just after reading the system message, he saw one of the creature's legs heading towards him. Dodging it was easy, since reaching level 4 he had become much stronger. Now he was ready to attack, executing a clean cut on one of the creature's arms. However, he realized that his blow had not been deep enough, and that he also had to complete the system quest, holding his breath for 60 seconds. Kyomi is determined to become stronger, and is already holding his breath for 10 seconds. The monster completely ignores his condition, while our boy tries to defend himself from the attacks. That minute of holding his breath feels like an eternity, until he finally overcomes this challenge, and the system gives him another reward. Feeling his strength significantly increase, Kyomi realized he had reached level 5. Using sword dance against the creature, his cut was able to turn its body into a puzzle. Using another technique, he turned that monster into an inanimate object, leaving behind a huge corpse abandoned in the ice. With this, he also acquired a new skill, an ice barrier that protects against excessive cold, which greatly facilitated the exploration of this dungeon. But his last system task was very difficult. He thought he was adjusting the difficulty. After remaining motionless for a few seconds, his body was almost covered by snow. So our boy continued through the frozen desert until he started chasing a rabbit that lives in that place. An E-level creature. Finally, the boy managed to get close enough to attack. But as soon as he attacked, he saw that the rabbit completely dodged him. And to top it off, the creature even mocked our boy's slowness. Knowing that he wouldn't be able to catch it, he decided to ignore the rabbit, as he had already collected several magic stones. While drinking a hot drink, he began to think that perhaps it was enough, and he felt even more grateful for Alice's invitation, as he had gained a lot of experience points in that place. Moreover, she also possesses exceptional beauty. Our boy still doesn't feel comfortable thinking about it, but it's very hard to ignore this fact. After drinking his drink, he decided that he would explore as much as he could that day, and it was then that he heard a cry of despair. Near where he was, an adventurer was being completely beaten. Some of his companions had already been turned into t-shirt prints. The only thing left of that group was a girl who was now unable to defend herself. In front of her was a huge and visibly dangerous rabbit. The girl closed her eyes, expecting the worst. But before the creature could completely crush her body, our protagonist arrived to save her. The creature can smell something different in this place. This rabbit is a creature of level and is also rare. It's the boss rabbit. Kiani is aware of the danger that rare creatures can pose. Before placing the girl on the ground, he took out a small handkerchief and placed it on her, stating that he would help her with this task, since she had never been treated well in her life and had no father figure. At the slightest sign of male affection, the girl was delighted. Her companions realized they were being rescued and thanked our protagonist, but they also asked what class he belonged to. Kyomi confidently tells them that he belongs to no class, which left the adventurers very concerned. Despite being concerned, our protagonist said that, thank God, he had managed to reach this place. Now, with his sword in hand, he was ready to fight that terrible creature. The furious rabbit charged at our unclassed adventurer, striking where he was with a crushing blow. Breaking several ice stones, Kyomi had to defend himself from the debris that flew with the impact. At the same time, he saw the rabbit approaching, increasingly furious. The terrifying creature revealed that it had huge teeth, and they were not for eating carrots. Kyomi narrowly dodged that bite, which could have been fatal. That rare monster is truly a fierce creature, so one must be very careful. The longer the fight drags on, the more furious the rabbit becomes. The strength in its legs is impressive, capable of making great leaps. Before, Kyomi used his bonus points to increase his attack power and face creatures like these, and then he would use his skills to cut it completely. The first of his blows hit the rabbit squarely. The creature's eyes were dazzled by the glow of that power. Because it was something it couldn't withstand, the snow turned red, and the girl who had been rescued watched it all from the side. Becoming increasingly enchanted by our protagonist's athletic prowess, The other adventurers asked how someone without a class could use sword skills. Kyomi has no intention of hiding his skills, but completely ignoring the question of those men. He approached the girl and asked if she could stand up. Realizing that our protagonist was talking to her, the girl became so embarrassed that she was speechless. Stammering, she tried to say nonsensical things, and our protagonist asked if she was a healer. If so, she should heal the others right now. The woman was discouraged, as she expected a different kind of invitation from our protagonist. While she heals her companions, Kyomi thinks about the exorbitant amount of money he is earning to heal his sister. One of the adventurers, she didn't expect a healer and someone without a class to help her someday in her life. Kyomi realized that the value of a healer is only revealed in situations like this. But those men treated her with disdain, saying she was too slow to perform her role. The mage said he had included her in his team for those kinds of tasks, so she should be useful. The girl managed to restore her health with ease. Kyomi realized that those men still didn't know the value of a healer, as they continued to complain and threatened to kick her out of the team, showing no moral fiber. The girl was emotionally shaken by that kind of abuse, until Kyomi approached that adventurer and sincerely asked him to expel the girl from his team. She immediately became sad, imagining she was truly useless. But to her surprise, Kyomi told her she shouldn't waste her true potential in a place like that, and that she should join him. The girl, already completely smitten, became overly emotional, imagining this was a marriage proposal. Kyomi made sure to tell her that. She had misunderstood everything. Extending his hand, he told her that one day she would be the strongest adventurer, and asked her if she could believe those words. After hearing those words, the woman realized that our protagonist was very different from others. So she decided to believe what he had said. More than that, she decided she would believe in him. Now that he had received her answer, Kyomi asked the woman to trust him. He immediately said goodbye to her, saying he had urgent business to attend to. The girl was left alone and quite confused after all that interaction. Back at the adventurer's building, the receptionist asked him if those magic stones had been collected in the icy shadow, as that was enough for him to be promoted to Class E, which made our boy very excited, since he could now enter level dungeons without needing an invitation. For the receptionist, it was the first time she had seen someone without a class get promoted, and now that he has been promoted, others will no longer treat him like a novice. Kyomi realized that his pace was very good, and that the money he earned in the process was satisfactory. He decided he would get a gift for Natsu by buying her various sweets. As he announced his arrival by knocking on the door, one of the nurses noticed that he was carrying a lot of sweets. Natsu was sleeping soundly inside. As soon as he saw his sister, he thought it was very cute that she was sleeping. Then he gently stroked her head, thinking that this time he would do everything differently. He would not allow her to die, and he was gathering everything necessary for that to happen. Finding that healer in the dungeon was a stroke of luck, as her powers will be essential for his sister's treatment. While trying to store the sweets in the apartment's mini-fridge, Kyomi realized there wasn't enough space. He decided he would eat half of them to make space, and as he passed by the room, the nurse realized that the boy had bought the sweets for himself. Later that day, Kyomi left the hospital to call a certain person. He immediately introduced himself, and the woman said that his call at that moment was unexpected. Kyomi said he had already completed the task she had assigned him. Alice was impressed that he had gone through the dungeon without any class, while our protagonist thanked her for her help on his journey to become stronger. She asked if our protagonist had many expectations, and if he wasn't interested in learning about other dungeons. Kyomi answered negatively. In fact, he wants to train one person, and Alice has a large network of contacts. She assured him that this person is a promising healer, and that she would like her to be part of a team where there is also a necromancer. Alice seemed interested in that circumstance, saying that our protagonist's methods are very peculiar. She said that this way it will be much more interesting, while thinking that these two classes have synergy. People don't know it yet, but the healer can grow exponentially. Alice said she could do it, but she made it clear that our boy would be in her debt, recalling the promise she made to the healer whom she fully trusted in what Alice could do for her. Upon ending the call, Alice couldn't stop thinking that this boy was a very interesting person. The next day, at the adventurer's building, the receptionist handed him his E-class certificate. Congratulating him on achieving it, Queenie took the certificate with great composure. Her coolness impressed the receptionist. She said that moving up a class is very important. Many give up before achieving something like that, but the poor girl doesn't know that in his past life. Our boy was S-class. While they were talking, a person entered, causing a great commotion. Because their hands were cuffed, there were 3 people in that situation, all of them known D-class adventurers known as the Ravenous. They had committed several crimes, so the other adventurers were afraid of what they might do. The receptionist said that choosing a leader for them is not an easy task, and now she is also having trouble solving this problem. To her complete surprise, our protagonist volunteered for the task. She said that everyone is afraid to do something like that, but our boy said that it was okay, since he thought this task would be very advantageous economically, and that he knows exactly how to handle these thugs. Given his stance, the receptionist decided to trust him, as he was already helping a lot. She presented him with a contract and let our protagonist choose what to do with his life. Around the neck of each of those thugs was a kind of collar capable of delivering electric shocks, and control of these collars was handed over to our protagonist. All he has to do is press the button on his wristband. Although they are criminals, they can work as adventurers and are talented at it. Our boy was instructed to use the wristband whenever necessary. One of the criminals, upon hearing this, said that they too were humans and had rights. His companion told him to shut up and stop talking nonsense. He approached our protagonist and asked him what his name was, as it was the least they needed to know. Kyomi told them his last name here, stating that it would be the last conversation they would have. Finally, their handcuffs were removed. The thug said that the supervisor this time was very tolerant. All of them were about to enter the dungeon. Deep Hell is the name of the place. A D-rank dungeon, very hot and with abundant lava. The bandits realized that they had been assigned another arduous task. Even they considered it too cruel, but complaining wouldn't change anything, because they had also received a great opportunity in this task. As they walked through the place, everyone stopped, and the bandits began to look at our protagonist. Sensing that something was about to happen, Kyomi immediately pressed the button on his wristband, but it didn't activate any effect. It was then that the first of the bandits removed the collar from his neck. Immediately followed by his companions, Kyomi realized that the bandits had managed to sabotage the material somehow. Their leader also took off his shirt, stating that he had nothing personal against our boy, but that they needed his life to end in this place. The system assigned our protagonist an emergency quest. Now he has to defeat all his enemies. A complicated task. Kyomi realized that the system levels quests with the situations he encounters in life. The fight between them is about to begin. Before they could move, a large creature revealed itself, emerging from that sea of lava. A fire worm. A level creature is about to attack them all. Its gigantic body easily destroys rocks. Kyomi realized that the monster was heading towards one of those criminals, but this one managed to hit the creature, breaking one of its jaws, all by using only its hands. To the criminal, that monster is too weak. Even though they are both in Class D, each of them is very close to moving up to the next class. Kyomi realizes that the criminal must be a fighter. Now he is sure that victory is a possibility in this situation. The criminal was concentrating his power to launch an attack against our protagonist. Running towards him impetuously, he believed that the battle would be decided with the first blow. Reacting quickly, Kyomi managed to dodge the impact, but the rock that was hit by the criminal's punch was completely destroyed, which made our protagonist increasingly alert. As the fight between the two continued, the other criminals were concerned about something else. One of them dug up a briefcase that was hidden in that place. Inside were pieces of equipment. Everything had been left there on purpose. Now that the criminals were armed, they believed that it would not be possible to defeat them together. Kyomi thought that if the magic stone appraisal spread, the truth would eventually come out. Another thing he noticed is that the fighter class is not compatible with equipment. He blocked the criminal's blow with great ease. Still, the offensive power of fighters is very high. Now that he had managed to block his attack, he realized that the bald man was approaching him like a locomotive. Kyomi immediately positioned his sword to receive him, striking the blade against the bald man's armor, which had a high defensive capability. As he had not caused any damage, Kyomi needed to distance himself from those men. The fighter class can be truly formidable, but there was a notable disadvantage in this class: dexterity with equipment. That's why our boy has a chance to win. He decided to focus his attack on the man with the bowl cut, who did not expect to become a target. Acting quickly, he managed to block our protagonist's sword. The criminal believed that this would be his opportunity to stop being a secondary character in this story, dodging our boy in a furious and wicked manner. But Kyomi's reflexes are very sharp. Dodging him was easy. What he didn't expect was for the bald man to grab him from behind, sending our protagonist's body flying away. Due to the force of the impact, he also dropped his sword. Kyomi is trying to recover from that, as even his breathing was interrupted. Facing 3 enemies at the same time is not an easy task, but now that the fight has been going on for a while, he can perceive the difference in skill between them. Once again, assuming a combat stance, Kyomi believes he can defeat them. The leader of the criminals is no longer so optimistic. Realizing that the boy is very capable, he ordered his henchmen not to hold back. As they need to resolve this as quickly as possible, they immediately obey the criminal leader, strengthening their bodies through a technique. Thanks to our protagonist's mastery, the system informs him that he has learned a new skill. At that moment, the hairdresser head launches an attack, believing that an unclassed adventurer could do nothing against him. Before his eyes could perceive it, our boy's sword was already a few inches from his chest. The poor boy still tried to block the attack with his axe. Unclassed adventurers learn very quickly, and with a physical strengthening technique. Our protagonist managed to cut down that criminal, who now doesn't seem so happy to be fighting an unclassed adventurer. Kyomi finally managed to take down the first of the criminals. His dexterity emerged at the perfect moment. The bald man was furious at what had just happened, and started running towards our protagonist. Kyomi used the sword dance technique against him, but due to the distance, the blow was deflected by the bald man's armor, who realized that this was a monster's technique. He was now getting closer and closer to our boy, destroying a rock wall that was behind Kyomi. He asked how an unclassed person could use that skill. It was then that he realized that he had not hit anything with his body, and our protagonist managed to dodge it by jumping high, while gravity does its existential job. Our boy waits for contact and executes a perfect blow against the bald man. Now he has defeated 2 of the criminals. Kyomi realized that physical strengthening is an interesting skill. In that jump, he reached very high. The remaining criminal realized that taking off his shirt was not enough, since now he also had to get rid of the underwear he was wearing. Completely terrified, he asked our protagonist what he really was, since he shouldn't be that strong, as that was not what they had agreed on. He said this while calling out to Akira. Kyomi began to wonder who could have that name, while still pondering. Someone grabbed his leg and surprised him. It was the bald man who had refused to get on the Ice Sky Express. Holding our boy, he said that he would manage to get back to the outside world. Kyomi realized that his mobility was reduced. The last of the criminals was prepared to surprise him at the opportune moment, and managed to hit our protagonist's face with his gauntlets. Kyomi's body was sent flying several meters inside the dungeon. The criminals wanted to believe that it had worked, as they had a stroke of luck. Kyomi's vision became very blurry. The force of that impact was truly intense, and he found it increasingly difficult to breathe. It was then that he remembered what had happened to his sister, and that he had a mission to complete. Immediately, the criminals became scared. Kyomi leaned on his own sword to get up. This time he wouldn't lose, because he had to save his sister's life. Determined to end the fight, he once again used physical enhancement, as he had enough reasons not to give up. And passing by the criminals with a single blow, he sent them both to the wonderful world of nostalgia, leaving behind only inanimate objects. The system notified that the emergency quest had been completed. As a reward for it, he received a small key. Immediately, the system asked him if he wanted to use that item, given all that had happened there. He decided that he would use the key on another occasion. Upon leaving the dungeon, he also took the criminals' bodies with him and delivered them back to the authorities. The police asked him what had happened inside, but Kyomi was too weak to answer, and he fell to the ground. Help was immediately called for. Inside a luxurious room, a man is informed by his subordinates that there was interference in his plans. He wants to know who was responsible for doing it, and receives our protagonist's data on his phone. Upon seeing that he has no class, he asked if it was a joke, but his subordinate assures him that the information is true, and the man seemed quite interested in this adventurer. This man is named Akira. He is a model and streamer, and apparently is involved in the criminal world. He is also an S-class adventurer, and founder of the Blood Snake clan. After everything that happened, Kyomi is doing push-ups in his room. He continues to train his body to become stronger and stronger. The wounds he suffered inside that dungeon have already healed. The problem is that he cannot say what happened to those criminals, who turned out to be very strong opponents. That's why he can't stop training to one day become completely invincible. Resting between exercise and exercise, he ended up remembering something. While he was in the dungeon, when he defeated the criminals, he received a key as a reward from the system, and he hasn't used that item yet. As soon as he took it back into his hands, the system asked him if he wanted to use it. This time the boy accepted. Immediately a strong blue glow appeared in his room. Kyomi was a little worried about what was happening, until he was completely absorbed into another dimension. Leaving behind only the towel he was using to wipe away his sweat, our boy fell to the ground. There was a lot of sand in the place. As soon as he recovered, he realized that it looked like a beach or a desert. Looking around, he confirmed that the worst hypothesis had come true. He was in the middle of a desert, and it was also a dungeon. The Sunstone Labyrinth, unprepared without his equipment, without a source of hydration. His situation was undoubtedly very bad. Appearing in the middle of a desert, without any explanation, was not what he had planned for that day. Moreover, he fell awkwardly into the sand, and now his clothes are full of it, causing a very uncomfortable sensation. The first thing he did was set off, looking for anything that might be useful to him. But walking through that place is an agonizing experience. The heat is his most deadly enemy, and so far no monsters have appeared to him. Our boy begins to wonder why this is happening. In the middle of his walk, he stepped on something different. He decided to crouch down to see what he could do, and he found a huge magic stone with an intense blue glow. That discovery deeply impressed our boy, because that abandoned place could actually be a mining dungeon. It's a very rare type to find, and he realized it too late, so he started digging the sand with his own hands. In this type of dungeon, it is possible to collect a wide variety of minerals, and considering his knowledge from past lives, perhaps he can find something very rare in this place. After digging several times, each time, he found huge magic stones of various types. His hands were already injured from moving the scorching sand, and his body's dehydration was gradually worsening. It was then that his eyes fell on something truly interesting. He found what he was looking for, the lunar magic stone. Without a doubt, that small mineral made all his effort worthwhile, because now our boy is closer to curing his younger sister's illness. He never imagined that that small key would be the path that would lead him to this great discovery. In the future, the illness his sister contracted will be called the magical vortex, and there is only one way to cure this illness. It requires the creation of a remedy using the lunar magic stone. To completely cure the illness, 10 stones of similar size to the one he found are needed for the treatment. Kyomi was immediately filled with determination to continue digging. Now that he had found the first stone, he will use all his strength to find as many as he can, relentlessly shoveling the desert sand again. But as time passes, dehydration and heat make everything much more difficult. His hands could no longer take it, and his wounds slowly bled. So far, he has not found another specimen of that stone. Still, with his tired body, his determination is far from disappearing. It was then that the system notified him of something. His time to explore that place was over, and now the dungeon would close. Knowing that he still needs to find the other lunar stones, Kyomi became very worried. The exit portal had materialized behind him, trying to make the most of the few seconds he had left. Our boy continued digging in the sand, but the portal's energy pulled his body with a mysterious force, until he was completely sucked in the direction of that dimensional opening, without having achieved what he desired. Finally, he had been returned to his original dimension, but Kyomi is very upset about what happened, and he began to beg the system to send him back to that mining place. After hitting the wall many times, marking it with his wounds, he realized that he would not return. However, the situation is not that bad. He at least managed to find a lunar magic stone. Being a little closer to the cure is better than making no progress at all. Completely exhausted from all that work, our boy fell asleep thinking that he would like to return to that dungeon. He came to the conclusion that the condition for activating that key is to undertake a dangerous mission. This made him get up immediately. He decided to face all the dangers that appeared in his life, as many times as necessary. After sitting on the bed, he felt a kind of prickle in his pocket. Upon seeing what was there, he found a small amber stone. Initially, this is an unidentified magic stone. All our boy brought back from that place were these 2 stones. Not knowing what it was, he thought about taking it to a specialist to analyze it, but he needed to take a bath immediately. The contact of water with his hands, burned by the heat, was very painful. Definitely not a pleasant bath. The next day, our boy returned to the hospital. Once again, he knocked on the door of his sister's room, and the nurse Kotila noticed that today he also brought something. Natsu opened the door for him with great enthusiasm, with many bandages on his fingers. Kyomi said he had brought her a gift. This time, he gave her a necklace with a special pendant made from the lunar magic stone. Natsu thanked him for the gift, although she found it very beautiful. She said she might not need it. Kyomi asked her why she wouldn't need it. Getting straight to the point, Natsu said it was very tacky. After talking a bit more, Kyomi said he would go back to work, but before leaving the room, he wanted to know if his sister really didn't want it. In addition to confirming the information, she wished him good luck at work, and he left with the necklace around his own neck. Disheartened, and the nurse realized once again that she had kept the gifts he had brought for the girl. After leaving the hospital, he headed to the appraisal department. As soon as he saw the appraiser, our protagonist thought he looked very suspicious. The man said that perhaps he gave that impression, but that he was very good at what he did, which surprised our boy. Thinking that his thoughts were read, the appraiser said that it is very rare to see someone with a lunar magic stone, and Kyomi asked him if he knew anything about it. In any case, placing the other stone on the table, Kyomi said that he had gone there to appraise this item, and the appraiser immediately got to work, looking at our protagonist with a very interested smile. What they have before them is a truly extraordinary product. This magic stone can add magical effects to weapons. That's what the appraiser said. Kyomi realized that with this stone he could enchant his weapons, something difficult to find in his past life. At that moment, he was surprised by the appraiser, who suspected that our boy might think it was just junk. In any case, he should not underestimate the rarity of that item, since, thanks to this stone, he could enchant armaments. The appraiser asked him if our protagonist knew what that really meant, saying that he would no longer have to work. Kyomi maintained the same expression of total disinterest, and the appraiser asked him if he didn't like it, because this is an incredible possibility. Not having to work is what everyone desires. The truth is that our protagonist had not understood what those words meant. The appraiser said that this particular stone absorbs the souls of monsters defeated by the enchanted weapon, turning them into his subordinates, and that it can also take their skills. They will only discover what it really does after enchanting a weapon with it. It was at that moment that our boy realized that this could be really exciting. The appraiser asked him if he would be able to do something like that, and Kyomi assured him that he would put it into practice. It didn't take long for the appraiser to do what our protagonist had decided. Now he needs to test what his sword will be capable of. Kyomi thought for a few moments, but he knows exactly where he needs to go. In the adventurer's building, he headed to the training room, where a man working there was calling the next user. As soon as our boy's identification was completed, he was granted access to the room. The inspector noticed that our protagonist is rank E and still has no class, so he assumed he would be very weak. Assuming something like that, he began to use his enchantments in the room, something that would be enough for that young man. A large magic circle appeared beneath them, dazzling their eyes. Small creatures also began to appear. Their danger level is E-class. At first, these monsters seem harmless and fly, as if they were cotton candy, but their tiny bodies hide a huge and menacing mouth. The first creature is about to attack our protagonist, who did not feel threatened at all, cutting the first one with great ease. As soon as the creature was defeated, a mysterious energy began to emanate from the sword, heading towards the creature's body, until that energy completely enveloped Kyomi, who also doesn't know what is happening. After everything was absorbed, even the inspector responsible for that room was surprised. The system notified that a point of magic defense had been absorbed due to this. Kyomi finally realized that the advantages of that magic stone could be greater than he expected, confirming that his magic defense had increased by 1 point. The inspector asked our boy what had just happened. Kyomi told the curious man not to worry about anything, and that he now had an important question to ask him. He wanted to know if this summoner was only capable of bringing low-level creatures. The comment, though simple, left that man quite bewildered, saying that he would summon creatures strong enough for our protagonist to cry for help. Before he could perform his summoning, a man entered the room, accompanied by a girl, and asked if he could join that training session. He also said that he was very grateful to meet them both. The inspector insisted that this time was reserved for Kyomi, and asked the other adventurer to wait his turn. It was then that he showed a dark card, granted by the bank to those who like to use revolving credit, imprudently willing to pay for what he was going to request. The man with the thin mustache wanted a mass summon. If Kyomi joined them too, there would be no problem, and our boy began to get interested. Even for a summoner like him, such a large request meant that he would gain many benefits. Kyomi said he didn't care when in reality he thought he was very grateful for this huge possibility. In light of this, the inspector said that now there is nothing to do. The two adventurers are E-class, respectively. As for the summoner, he knows exactly what to do now, as he needs to bring monsters that are reasonable for both. A large number of D-class goblins appeared in that room. Their numerical advantage was so great that our protagonist was impressed. The other adventurer who arrived there praised the summoner's skill and also asked what class the boy belonged to. To his great astonishment, he learned that our protagonist had no class. He and his companions soon began to smile at this situation, apologizing for dragging our boy into something so dangerous. After that, he began to draw his swords. Prepared to train, he and his companion were sure that they would defeat all the creatures, charging at them impetuously. Before they reached the largest group, one of the monsters decided to attack as well, jumping on him, but the adventurer managed to block it with his swords, taking the opportunity to surprise the creature with a kick. He aimed his attack at the monster's legs, which ended up losing its balance from the impact and falling to the ground, becoming completely vulnerable to the sword attack that would follow. The adventurer and his companion are happy to be defeating the creatures. Now he is finally ready to attack the next one. Unexpectedly, all the other monsters were annihilated. The only person alive in the middle of the room is our protagonist. Kyomi said he had already taken care of that side. The adventurer and his companion were very bewildered. Kyomi thanks the stranger, as the mass summon is something too fun. As he said goodbye, he said he hoped to see him again soon. Before leaving the training room, the summoner has a question to ask. He wanted to know more about the boy's moves, because it's impossible for someone without class, and who is in the class to perform such moves. Showing great interest in our protagonist's identity, he asked who he was, but he didn't want to give details about his personal life. Kyomi simply said that he was someone without class, leaving the summoner speechless. He only asked our protagonist to return someday, promising to summon even more powerful monsters for him. Kyomi let out a discreet smile, stating that he would be grateful for it. After defeating 42 monsters in that room, he ended up gaining 3 points. He doesn't always manage to absorb them. Inside the locker room, he started thinking about it while showering. The more he fights, the stronger he becomes. His weapon has become something terrifying. Now outside, Kyomi saw that there were very agitated people in that place. A man in a suit approached him and asked if our boy was an adventurer. He immediately confirmed this information, which made the man grateful due to the fact that a dungeon overflow was occurring. Kyomi was immediately surprised by this news. All adventurers were being recruited for that region. In a dungeon flood, creatures managed to escape into the human dimension. The situation is truly dangerous. Kyomi needs to prepare. At that very moment, the system assigned him an emergency quest. Kyomi realized that this was a great opportunity to become stronger and stronger. While people are desperate, Kyomi believes he can expect exclusive rewards, thanks to those emergency quests from the system, and one of them finally reappeared. Its objective is to put an end to the cause of the overflow. This objective left him thoughtful. He always thought that these types of events were natural disasters, while wondering if it really wasn't accidental. A man told him to hurry and go where he was needed. Kyomi said he would, but leaving the man increasingly anxious, he first took care of storing his things in his backpack. In his city, Shibuya, chaos and destruction spread everywhere. People run to save their lives, while monsters run to kill people. In the desperation of the crowd, a girl trips and falls, making her an easy target for the creatures. One of the goblins saw a great opportunity in this and headed directly towards her, willing to end her life. In desperation, the girl closed her eyes and started screaming, missing the opportunity to see her head being cut off by the creature. When she opened her eyes again, she realized that an adventurer had saved her life. Still trying to understand what had happened, she managed at least to thank our protagonist for what he had done, calling him a swordsman. This made Kyomi correct the girl, stating that he had no class. That statement immediately shocked her, thinking that perhaps he was a completely useless person. She decided to flee from that place as quickly as possible. Our protagonist tries to hide it, but this kind of reaction from people towards him hurts. Other adventurers are also there to help with containment, but they ended up encountering a dangerous creature. They prepare to attack this monster together. From the darkness, the creature emerges while eating a rice cake, a hawk goblin, a D-class creature, and on this occasion it had already ended the lives of many people. As soon as the adventurers realized its danger level, they decided to flee, leaving one of their companions behind. Our protagonist was approaching this place and encountered the fleeing adventurers. His arrival surprised the only adventurer who had stayed, who asked who our boy was. Kyomi immediately introduced himself and told him that he was also an adventurer and that he was level E. However, he had not chosen any class. This simple statement caused great fear in the other adventurer, who imagined that this boy's presence would only bring more trouble. He hadn't even noticed that a vehicle had been thrown in his direction. Looking back, he realized that there was little he could do about it, but his will to live was strong. And with all his might, he jumped out of the path of that object, all while the monster found it amusing. Our protagonist knows that this monster possesses great attack power. Its physique is robust and resistant, but the creature's ear splitter is merely illustrative. Its reasoning ability is deficient, brimming with confidence. Kyomi told the other adventurer that they had to resolve this quickly, and he agreed, showing that courage abounds in him. Our protagonist told the man that he would attract the creature's attention. As soon as he finished the sentence, he started running at full speed. The adventurer was left behind in panic, thinking that he had been left alone, but that creature seemed hypnotized by the movement, and immediately headed towards our protagonist. Kyomi had already expected something like this to happen, while the other adventurer was surprised by the outcome. As the two moved away, he finally understood what our boy's plan was, managing to get behind the creature to hit it with his sword. The monster agonized in pain, but that was not enough to end its life. And it was then that the man realized that he would be in trouble, because that monstrosity was about to hit him fatally. But by turning his back on our protagonist, the creature received another blow. Suffering much more damage, the system notified our boy that he had managed to absorb an attack point. After defeating that creature, Kyomi extended his hand to the other adventurer, asking him if he could still fight. Very enthusiastically, he replied yes, stating that he would not fall behind the younger hunters. As he stood up, the man and our protagonist heard a peculiar noise. It was the arrival of higher-level adventurers. They were finally arriving at that place. The more experienced adventurer said that their task, being below level E, was to help the innocents, leaving the stronger ones to deal with the monsters. But our boy completely ignored his speech, as he had launched himself towards danger. Worried about what might happen to our protagonist, the more experienced hunter decided to follow him. Kyomi had found a kind of portal in the middle of the city. The place was completely surrounded, and a large amount of energy emanated from that dimensional opening. Kyomi could hear the hunter's heavy breathing behind him. He had to make an effort to keep up with our boy, who asked him why he had decided to follow him. The man said that he did it because the boy was trying to go to a dangerous place completely alone. Kyomi was about to say that the man was a very nice person, but changed his mind halfway through, stating that the man was actually an idiot. And he got angry realizing that he had intentionally changed the words. Anyway, the adventurer said that this young man might be strong, but going alone was still reckless. It is also dangerous for him, but the man will make sure to go home for a drink later, saying that the young man should do the same and avoid traumatic events. And dangerous, he asked our protagonist what he was doing in that particular place. Kyomi said he was going to eradicate the cause of the overflow. To that more experienced hunter, this type of event was also a natural cause, and heading towards the portal. Kyomi stated that he would find out if that was true or not. Our boy was about to knock on the door. The closer he got to that opening, the more intense the energy emanating from it became. The brightness of the rays was so intense that his vision was already dazzled, until the resulting flash was so strong that it looked like an explosion. In fact, that's what happened. Our protagonist's body was sent flying, leaving the other adventurer worried. It was not possible to enter that portal, but when trying to interact with it, something had emerged. The other adventurer began to wonder what that could be. A creature had appeared. It was C-Class, the echo of Kurolkan. The monster began to wonder how it had been discovered, and our protagonist had seen that symbol somewhere before. It was present at the event that ended his previous life. After being revealed, the monster began to change shape, looking a lot like the dragon that was defeated by our protagonist. The monster was ready to end the lives of those men. The more experienced adventurer was completely devastated, believing that this would be his last adventure in life. The fierce creature was prepared to attack the two adventurers. As it charged its destructive attack, a characteristic glow appeared in its throat. Kyomi immediately recalled his past experiences regarding this, but the monster's attack was too fast. And now he needed to defend himself. With no way to block that attack, the only option left was to flee. And he took the other adventurer with him. The two managed to avoid the worst by falling to the ground. Kianis realized that the man's sword was almost completely rusted. He tried to think about what could have caused that, and concluded that it was the effects of time. Being hit in any way by an attack from that creature would be extremely dangerous. Kyomi tried to think of a way to act against it. The man asked to be left behind, as he was only a burden to the boy. Kyomi remembered that he had said before that he would go home. Those words moved the old adventurer. While they were talking, the creature was about to launch another attack. Kyomi saved the man once more, who told our boy that they would drink together at the end of that day. But to everyone's surprise, Kyomi said that he couldn't do it because he was still a minor. Now, at a safe distance, our boy drew his sword, being warned by the man not to be reckless. Kyomi already has experience in battle against enemies who use tactics of this type, and the creature asked him if he really thought he could win that duel, and immediately advanced towards him, this time to launch a physical attack at him. Kyomi did not expect this sudden change of strategy, so he had to dodge it to the side before being hit. Although he reacted quickly, he ended up cutting the creature's body. He also could not miss that opportunity, and he immediately swung his sword to attack, managing to hit the monster's body. But his blow was not very effective. The hardness of that armor is so great that the blow ended up reverberating, and our protagonist's arm trembles, and that horrible creature attacked him again with its cosmic breath. Kyomi remembered that a dragon never burns its throat with the attacks it uses. That is why that magic point exists at the base of its throat. That is the point where he must concentrate his attacks. Assuming an offensive stance, he used his body's strengthening technique. Launching his sword dance attack against the creature, the monster realized that it had to act, but it ended up being hit by our boy's attack. Being hit in its weak spot, the creature wondered if it had really been defeated. Kyomi knows that the monster's attacks require a large amount of magical power, and now that it seems to be exhausted, it is the perfect opportunity to concentrate his attacks. Hitting the creature's body several times, he managed to cause some damage to its armor, exposing the most sensitive part of the monster's body. Now that he has access to it, Kyomi managed to land a much more effective blow than all the others. Pain spreads throughout the creature's body, and its cries of pain and agony echo in the air. Kyomi realizes that the creature's desperate reaction can be dangerous. Being immediately hit by the monster's tail, the force of the impact was enough to send him flying. Kyomi tries to recover to re-engage in combat, as the huge creature was already flying in his direction. Ready to attack him physically, our boy realizes that he must act immediately or his life will end prematurely. To his surprise, the monster's attack was blocked by the other adventurer's shield. That man had put his own life in danger to save our boy. He tries to contain the creature as best he can while asking Kyomi if he is okay. That was the most help he could offer in a battle like this. But for our protagonist, that was more than enough. The creature's body begins to crumble for no apparent reason. Not only was the monster perplexed, but so was the adventurer holding the shield. All this was the work of our protagonist, who used poison to defeat the monster. He had learned that skill after defeating the hobgoblin they had encountered earlier. The monster's body was paralyzed, and it could barely speak. Seeing that our protagonist had approached dangerously, the creature uttered a name, Karuna. Immediately after, its life ended with a slashing blow, and the system notified our boy that he had managed to absorb a defense point. Furthermore, he managed to reach level 7 by defeating the creature. Finally, the emergency quest had concluded, and as a reward, our boy received another mysterious key. Thinking about what had happened, Kyomi felt that he would fight that creature again. All that remained in that place were the victorious adventurers, and the old man asked him what the young man had received. But our protagonist continued cleaning his sword, and the old man realized that he should not ask so many questions to the one responsible for saving his life. The truth is, after the stress, great relief came, and although they did not know each other well, the two became friends due to the hardships. The smile on our boy's face does not deny this fact. Their encounter was soon interrupted by the arrival of some men in suits. One of them wanted to know if they were the ones responsible for defeating that creature. Before our protagonist could answer, his unusual friends stated that most of the work had been done by this young man. The man in the suit remembers our boy, the E-level adventurer who has no class. The overflow ended, and the portal returned to full stability. Now this man wanted to know if there was any reason for it. Kyomi realized that, with a witness present, it would be difficult to remain silent about this situation, and said that the portal returned to normal after the dragon was defeated. The man in the suit found that information interesting, as until now they thought these types of events were natural disasters. Kyomi said that he could only answer what he knew. Then, holding his new friend by the shoulder, he left that place, and as they walked away, someone asked if it was okay to let them go. The blindfolded figure stated that he could extract information from them, making it clear that he would do so unethically. But for the man in the suit, that would not be necessary, and he wishes to approach them in a friendly manner, because he already knew that our protagonist had a hospitalized sister. The other adventurers are impressed with the man's cunning. He already knows that a great battle is about to occur, and that strength is in numbers, and he also believes that Kyomi Aki could become his trump card. Shortly after, someone called him and communicated with the man on the other end of the line. He said he would do what was agreed and take him with him. The leader of the Blood Snakes impatiently awaits this. Inside his room, Kyomi carefully selected some tools, storing them all inside a backpack. While engaged in this task, he received a notification on his phone. He had received an email. Due to his recent contributions, our boy was promoted to the next class. He is now a D-level adventurer. All this at only level 7. Kyomi is very excited about his progress. Shortly after, he received another message. It was his sister, who told him that he was becoming more famous. She also sent him a link for him to check. Kyomi was among the new emerging talents. Besides him, there was also the healer Naomi, who was doing an excellent job. It was on this occasion that Natsu asked our protagonist if he really had no class. And for the first time in his life, he gave a plausible explanation, saying that he had a very important reason not to choose any kind of class. Now, properly equipped, he is ready to be transferred to that mining dimension. He already has the key in the palm of his hands. However, the system said that the key was made for higher-level adventurers. Our boy's level might not be sufficient. It is up to him to decide whether he wants to use it or not. For a brief moment, that message caused hesitation in our boy, but he remembered what happened in his past life, and how he was a burden to others, unable to save his own sister. He has already had his share of misfortunes in life, so he decided to use the key. The system said it was a good decision. Then he will be received in this dimension. This time, a portal appeared before him, and automatically, our boy's body began to be sucked inside. While he was being transmigrated, his body gradually disappeared. Unexpectedly, he ended up appearing in the hall of a castle surrounded by guards. It doesn't look like the dimension he expected. Kyomi is very surprised by what he sees. Before him is an old man sitting on a throne. This is the world of elves, an A-rank dungeon. Seeing the throne in that hall, Kyomi began to wonder if it was really a dungeon. And the one who seemed to be the king said that our boy had been guided by the will of the gods, and that he would like to know his name. Kyomi did not expect to hear such a sentence, and from the construction of this narrative, he thought it might be a mission. Still, he introduced himself to the king, saying that he had gone to that place to find lunar magic stones, and he immediately realized that he wanted to treat the magic vortex disease. That man's assertiveness visibly surprised our boy. The king said that if that was what the boy wished, he could order an alchemist to prepare everything. However, the lunar magic stone is also a very valuable resource in that world. Kyomi immediately realized that it would not be free, and asked if he had to do something difficult. The king said, "The boy is smarter than he looks, and the will of the gods has sent an interesting adventurer." His dialogue was interrupted by the arrival of a messenger. Our protagonist could not hear what they were discussing, but the king was very surprised to discover that the adventurer had no class. Even the soldiers were hesitant and worried. He even thought it was some kind of mistake, as it was not what was expected. Kyomi asked the king if there was any problem, and he, quite embarrassed, trying to hide his frustration, replied no, believing that the will of the gods is never wrong, but our boy's task would be to duel, and his opponent would be the great sinner. His crime is having attacked his own people. That man's actions caused great destruction, while innocents were massacred. They asked him why he had done it. He replied that he had no specific reason. He simply uses his power because he possesses it. That degenerate was capable of summoning lightning with his hands, attacking innocents with fireballs mercilessly. Recalling these things, the king said that attacking one's own people is strictly forbidden. It is a sacred law for elves. That is why they summoned someone from outside to perform this task, saying that if our protagonist accepted it, they would give him a reward. Kyomi immediately got excited about this proposal and told the king that they already had a deal. He extended his hand to the king, but nothing happened. The messenger remains worried about the situation of this unknown adventurer who has no class. And the king stood up from the throne, finally, shaking our protagonist's hand, stating that the duel would take place the next day, and that until then, the boy could explore the city freely. Kyomi did not expect such a complex place, and he really went to the city to get to know these people better. A woman kindly greeted him and told him that she would guide him through the place. Kyomi finds the whole experience quite unexpected. It doesn't seem like a conventional dungeon. The woman said that, indeed, it is a dungeon, but that the place in question is special. It has been 10 years since the last time someone from outside visited this place. Our protagonist finds the exotic shape of the fruits amusing. He asked what had happened to the last visitor, not sparing our boy the harsh reality. The woman told him, the last visitor is pushing up daisies. This made our protagonist realize that the place was potentially dangerous. As they walked, they heard some people applauding. It seems there is going to be some event in the square, and the woman suggested that they should take a look too. A goblin was attracting the attention of passers-by. He was going to show them an interesting magic show. In his language, he began to prepare the strengthening enchantment, and right after that he created fireballs with his hands, launching what he had created into the air. As he closed his hands, the fireball exploded, creating an interesting pyrotechnic display. Kyomi realized that it was too strong to be just a fireball. The man said that technique temporarily enhances someone's ability. The woman guiding our boy said that it had been invented recently. As our classless adventurer learns easily, he learned that skill just by seeing it. It will undoubtedly be very useful in battle. It was a good start as soon as the sun set. He realized that he had already done a lot that day. He revealed to his guide that he would like to know more if he had the chance. And with a magnificent answer, the woman told him that he could learn more if he survived the next day. Kyomi did not like the suspicious tone of her voice, but he still said goodbye to her without any problems. The next day, he walks through the corridors leading to the arena. His steps are firm and confident, and finally he entered the place where the duel would be held. Several people are there to witness the show. On the other side, they also bring his opponent. My God, what an exaggeration by the illustrator. Look at the size of this guy. He must have been drinking protein shakes from a baby bottle. He has never been afraid of needles. Kyomi immediately realized that this citizen was a little different from what he had heard. The prisoner asked the guard if he would be released if he emerged victorious. He immediately began to use magic in that place, creating a large magic circle with his fingertips. The entire place was covered in darkness, and Kyomi understood that this technique altered time itself. And the degenerate prisoner said that this festival would fuel his development. The prisoner approached our protagonist with great confidence. This time he began to wield lightning in his hands, enveloping our protagonist with another of his spells. That water manipulation technique prevented our boy from seeing completely, until he realized that the rain was only falling around him, but he couldn't let that limit him. So he firmly gripped his sword, only to see the criminal use another technique. This time a purple sphere appeared. The criminal hit the ground with his technique, and it began to spread throughout the place. Without our protagonist realizing it, the ground beneath his feet began to become malleable, until a force began to pull him in. Kyomi was being swallowed by the earth. He had no knowledge of that magic which, for him, also came from an unknown technique. As he was being swallowed, he tried to grab onto the ground with his own hands. Most unexpectedly, the elves seemed to be cheering for the criminal, who, looking at our protagonist, asked what was going wrong, as he had just started his moves, stating that our boy was a fool, who had been tricked by bait and ended up in that situation. The king already imagined that it would be too difficult for a human, but the outcome does not matter, because whoever will lose their life will not be one of their own. Kyomi realized that at that rate, he would not be able to resist, and used his body's strengthening technique to try to get out of the hole. But the force he received was still insufficient. It was then that he decided to use skill enhancement. This time he managed to pull his body out of that mud hole. Even the criminal was impressed with what he saw, while our protagonist felt relieved to have learned that technique, because now he could move much better than expected, launching his sword dance attacks against his enemy. The cuts tore through the air until they hit a barrier. Kyomi was amazed by that result. What he had hit with his blows was just an ice construct. The criminal had moved away from his reach, claiming that human magic cannot reach that far. This time he also used ice to attack, but our boy has cold resistance, so it poses no danger to him. However, the criminal remains confident and raises his hand high. He said that our protagonist should recognize the difference in power between them, and he launched a large rain of ice spikes in the boy's direction. The sharp projectiles are heading towards our protagonist. The impact caused by them is devastating, causing great destruction. Due to the dust raised by this attack, the audience is confused, not knowing what has happened. It was as if a large ice sarcophagus had been built in the middle of that place. The truly strange thing is that these people are cheering for the criminal who, in theory, has broken one of their most sacred laws. While celebrating, the criminal said that he was finally free. Looking directly at the king, He asked if he would keep his word. Apparently, His Majesty is the only person in that place who is not cheering for the criminal. And to the surprise of everyone present, the ice sarcophagus exploded. Neither the king nor the audience expected such an event. Something had happened inside that ice mountain. Our protagonist's sword emerged from that place. With the blade shining, and thanks to this skill, he managed to escape that prison. The criminal seems impressed with our boy's ability. Kyomi realized that, despite his muscular build, the elf he is facing does not seem to be someone endowed with physical strength. In that body, it is only for Instagram photos. For the criminal, the duel is becoming more and more interesting, and he prepared another of his spells, thinking that he should further increase the power channeled through them. Kyomi said that his enemy is very skilled, while thinking with surprise that this demon can become even stronger. He cannot keep up with this enemy, and began to wonder if there is any way to counter this monster. He recalled an event from his past life, where he heard an adventurer say that he had encountered a very clumsy elf. The creature's hair caught fire with its own magic, and after that it started to run in panic. Kyomi realized that this simple clue could be his only way out of this battle. He immediately averted his gaze, contemplating the spectators. The Kremlin did not like this attitude, saying that our protagonist should not be distracted. However, he did not expect our boy to already be in the middle of his attack, even using body strengthening. He was not able to hit his enemy. Kyomi then used technique enhancement, but the elf also managed to dodge it, jumping into the air and avoiding being hit by the sword. Underestimating our protagonist, he said that he was very skilled, but that if that was all the power he had, there was not much to do. At that moment, our boy began to smile because the creature's hair had been cut without him realizing it. And the elf finally realized what had just happened. For the first time in the entire battle, the audience was truly shocked, as if they had witnessed something cruel, and the criminal seemed to have fallen into deep despair. Kyomi guessed that hair is the tool that allows elves to manipulate magic. Right after cutting his enemy's hair, the sunlight once again illuminated the arena, a sign that the elf's technique had been suppressed. Kyomi advanced towards the criminal, determined to end the battle, but that arrogant creature refused to concede victory. Trying to use his techniques once more, nothing appeared in his hands. It was then that he understood that his power had disappeared. The cut executed by our protagonist was swift and precise, leaving the criminal mortally wounded. His body already lay on the ground stinking, and the system informed our protagonist that he had absorbed 10 magic points. In light of what had happened, His Majesty announced to everyone that the man's crime had been judged, and that the adventurer guided by the gods should be blessed. Rose petals began to fill the entire arena. The king addressed the arena to congratulate our boys on their achievements. Both celebrated with a handshake, but there was something that worried the king. He asked how that human knew the secret of his hair. Kyomi decided to remain silent about that question, worried about what might happen. The king offered an extra reward if our protagonist did not reveal the secret. That small cube is an abyssal magic stone. Kyomi knows that this magic stone comes from the last dungeon, the abyss. Placing the necklace around our protagonist's neck, he said that he no longer cared how he had discovered that information, but that if he showed the mineral to an enchanter, he will know how to use it. The king only had one last thing to say, but it was not necessary. Kyomi assured him that he would keep his part of the deal. He also received the lunar magic stones, as promised, inside a small bag, perhaps more than he needed for now. Due to the service rendered, the king said he would reveal something else to him. That type of mineral can be worked. Our protagonist had no idea about that. He immediately asked for more information about it. But the portal appeared to end his journey. The king said goodbye to him, saying that, if it was the will of the gods, they would meet again. Kyomi was sent back to his room, with all his belongings and rewards. But what he really wanted was the information from that old man. If he could work that mineral, he could end this disease in a meeting of supposedly important people. A man announces his arrival, apologizing for being late. The meeting will now begin. The man with glasses asked if he was there, and one of those men replied affirmatively. With a remote control, he turned on the screen, which revealed that the man they were talking about was training. The women in the room immediately became playful, scrutinizing all those patches of skin. The man they were talking about is our protagonist, who is quietly exercising, and only now does he realize that someone is calling him on the phone. They asked him to put on a t-shirt, and our boy apologized, as he didn't think the meeting would start so soon. Anyway, he wants to know what it's about. The man with glasses said that he would like to recommend him for a specific task, which piqued our boy's curiosity. Expert adventurers, are being recruited for something that will appear in the future. As his name was suggested by Alice, they would like him to participate as well. Knowing that all this has to do with her, Kyomi said that he would like to know the details of this operation. The man with glasses made it clear that what he was going to tell him was confidential, and warned our boy to ensure that no information was leaked. Manipulating his tablet, he shared some information and showed him a graph. In response to our boy's question, he said that it was an analysis of the number of adventurer deaths, a statistic that is on the rise, caused by other adventurers. This left our protagonist lost in thought. The man with glasses said that it might be hard to believe, but it was the truth, and that he was going to talk about the other data. But he was interrupted by our protagonist, who already suspected that he was going to talk about adventurers who do this intentionally. Everyone in the meeting room fell silent, and the man with glasses was surprised that our boy already understood what was going on. Stating that this information had not yet been made public, Kyomi mentioned that he had only heard some rumors, but the truth is, he has extensive knowledge of his past life. He thought that this time they would hire him to hunt down these people, and the man with glasses continued with his explanation, stating that the organization that hunted other players had fallen into the trap they themselves had understood, and that they intended to capture them all in the scenario they were preparing. Our boy understood the plan, and the man with glasses was satisfied with his mental agility. He also stated that it would be a very dangerous task, but that the rewards would be proportional to the risk, and that his reputation would also improve. The man with glasses knows that our boy is spending a lot of money on medical expenses, and tells him that the offer he has made is not so bad. Kyomi is not surprised that the man knows about his sister's situation, and decided to accept, and asked him to tell him the plan, as he wants to start preparing for it. Satisfied with the boy's answer, he began to share information. According to the information they had gathered so far, the leader of this organization is an S-class adventurer, Akira Babisono. While they talk, a huge creature is attacking someone. Akira is in charge of confronting it, and asks his team if they can all see it. His actions are broadcast to his audience, and he says that the monster is B rank. But for those who know the countermeasures, defeating it is easy. The creature prepared its trunk to attack him, completely destroying the ground where it was located. But Akira managed to dodge it with great ease. In this small opportunity, he was going to show a weak point of the creature. After executing several cuts, he confirmed that the weak spot was the protrusion on its head. The entire upper part of the monster's neck was cut as if it were sashimi. As Akira told his audience that it was an easy task, he is very popular on social media. Upon leaving the dungeon, there was a large number of fans waiting for him, pretending to be a good person. He thanked everyone for their attention, but as soon as he got into the car, his personality completely changed. He doesn't like being the idol of these people who are nothing more than commoners. He was soon informed that he had received a message from the blood snakes. Their trap is proceeding as planned. Akira is eager to know what kind of adventurer the bureaucrats hired to finish them off. Analyzing that data, he came across someone peculiar because he found our protagonist's photo. The adventurer responsible for defeating those criminals inside a dungeon, who was portrayed as an incorrigible sadist. Akira is eager to meet our protagonist inside a dungeon, on the other side of town. Our boy bought some flowers, went to visit his sister, and the gossipy nurse noticed that the gift of the day was flowers. The boy opened his room door and Natsu was reading a book, and seemed to like the gift of the day. Kyomi said that he also brought good news, stating that perhaps soon they could cure her illness. Natsu was a little worried by this statement, because the doctors had told her that her illness had no cure. It was then that our protagonist took her hands and told her that everything would be fine. She decided to be optimistic with those words and said that she would believe her brother. While the two were talking, the gossipy nurse became emotional outside. Natsu said that the meaning of yellow roses is love that fades as if it were coming to an end. And poor Kyomi had no idea they had that meaning. He left the room discouraged, while the nurse watched once again, his inability to bring good gifts out of the hospital. Our boy answered a call in contact with Alice. He told her that he already knew about the job. The woman said that she would be very happy if he accepted it, as she would not be able to participate this time. She assured him that there would still be many qualified people, including Akira and Ikanos, who are exceptionally strong, but our protagonist does not believe it, as Akira is an assassin. A very weak class. Alice asked if, after this job, the two could go on a date, which made our protagonist uncomfortable. She said that our protagonist has more talent than she expected, so she would like to get to know him better. Kyomi said that he would consider this request for God's sake. When a boy decides to be soft, it's complicated, at least she found it pretty. Upon ending the call, she stated that she is looking forward to this happening at that moment. Our boy realized that he had tacitly confirmed a date. Let's get back to the adventurers. The man with glasses thanked everyone for being there, as they were going to put an end once and for all to those who conspire against society. This task will not be easy, but he trusts everyone's abilities and introduced them to the mission leader. The adventurer Akira, who is already at S level in the assassin class, assured that he would do everything possible to protect everyone and guide them in this task, saying that everyone would achieve success. As our protagonist also applauds, he observes this citizen with great attention. It was then that someone surprised him from behind, asking if it was really Kyomi here. Before confirming his identity, our boy asked who this person was. She said that he must have heard something through Alice. The girl is called Ikinosa Iru, Alice's own main disciple and a level adventurer in the archer class. The truth is that Ikinos is intrigued by the identity of the person so favored by her master, making it clear that she would not lose to him in any aspect. A masked man accompanied her and said that for now it was enough. His name is Sirota Teiki. He is a companion and also an alchemist specializing in poisons. Ikaino knows why her teacher has chosen someone so weak and advises her not to give in on this task, until the system surprised our boy with an urgent task. He had to steal Akira's phone. The first impression he got from it left him confused. To our boy it makes no sense. Still, Akira was nearby and already seemed interested in our protagonist. A very handsome gentleman greeted everyone and said he would explain the day's operation. Inside the dungeon, a group of beginners will serve as bait. They will be receiving training, and due to the confidentiality of the operation, they know nothing. The blood snakes and their team of criminals took the bait and planned to ambush the beginners. The attack squad will intervene when the criminals appear, annihilating them as quickly as possible. Now, our protagonist is aware of how the operation will unfold. While inside a plane, he heard that explanation. Inside the plane, he pays attention to his target. Akira chats calmly with other adventurers. He is always surrounded by people since they boarded. Our protagonist has not had the opportunity to steal his phone while he watches his target. Someone is watching our boy. Ikaino wants to know if he really has no class. Tired of having to answer this, and surprised by her sudden appearance, he confirms once more. She notices that our boy doesn't stop watching Akira and asks if he's also a fan. Evading the truth, Kyomi said that he could be seen that way, but the girl immediately realized that he was lying, and she would like to know what motivated him to say something like that. She noticed that our protagonist always observes the position of Akira's feet, waiting for his prey to give an opportunity. Ikaino realized all this because she is an archer, and she is very good at catching glances. She wants to know what our protagonist is planning, as she would help him. That was the order she received from Alice. The plane finally landed, and the adventurers began to disembark. Akira is the first in line. Unexpectedly, someone ended up bumping into him. Ikino did it and apologized. While she asks if he is okay, our protagonist has already used the secret karaoke summer technique, demonstrating that he is actually a great pickpocket. He apparently got what he wanted. He didn't expect his previous experience as an assassin to be useful in his current life. The system's mission was successfully completed. He would soon receive the rewards. He acquired the cat's paw skill, which in context means he is very good at stealing others' belongings. Ikaino is still very dedicated to the task of distracting Akira. Our protagonist noticed that the phone began to vibrate. It is time for him to gather confidential information, and by the content he had seen, he realized what was really going on. In the middle of a forest, there is a portal where the operation will take place. A bus carrying the adventurers approached the location. They immediately began to get off the transport. The one at the head is the man with glasses. If the intelligence is correct, their enemies are right ahead. The adventurers are free to take them all down, as the roots of evil will be completely eradicated. The adventurers celebrate enthusiastically, unaware that among them is a person infected with the virus of betrayal. They all head towards the portal. Akino asks our protagonist if the information is reliable. Some people are cleaning up the remains of breakfast. Kyomi told his companion that there is a reason why they did not have that meal, as he did not expect this mission to turn into another type of task. Kyomi places his hand on her shoulder and tells her that everything is fine because he will take care of the entire situation. The girl remains quite worried about everything that might happen. She advised him to stop trying to be nice when he doesn't have a class yet. It is not his duty to be the strongest. In front of them, Akira continues to motivate all the adventurers, leaving them all full of energy and quite enthusiastic. Our boy and Ikenos are the only ones who seem to know the truth, and they already observe Akira with great suspicion, with their sharp gaze. Ikenos realizes that this adventurer represents a great danger to all of them. Our protagonist asks her to calm down, stating that he is a capable person. Right after that, he entered the portal in front of her. Seeing his silhouette disappear into it, Ikenos began to understand a little better why Alice was delighted with him. That portal leads to an E-rank dungeon, the ancient city which resembles feudal Japan. The group of novice adventurers continues to advance. They are about to reach the gate. In front of them, a large explosion occurred, and the path was blocked by the fall of some trees. At that moment, some became worried and looked back. They had all been cornered by very suspicious-looking people. Scared by everything that was happening, they asked who these people were. The answer came in the form of an attack. A woman used her staff to summon magic, hitting the first of those adventurers hard. The rest saw it and felt invaded by great fear. One of those criminals wore an eye patch and said, "It's time for everyone to have some fun." At that very moment, Akira's team joined the fun, saying that they had arrived at the right time. Those who were cornering were now cornered. One of the adventurers said that they were the extermination squad, and that they were there to eradicate those criminals. Akira used part of his charisma to apologize to the rookies for making them wait. Relieved by their presence in that place, they began to believe they would be safe. The other adventurers ended up feeling underestimated by this excessive attention. One of them began to feel something strange in his whole body, immediately followed by all his companions, who began to feel great discomfort. They all fell to the ground, feeling their bodies numb. The only one who remained standing was Akira, not understanding what was happening. The rookies became very scared again, because the criminals regained the numerical advantage. Akira was also among them, and this time he did not try to maintain his good image. One of the adventurers, quite weakened, asked Akira what was happening. Ready to step on his head, Akira said that true evil is all that arises from weakness. Stepping hard on the extra's head, everyone in that place does not know his true nature, and he asked everyone to pay attention to that. The true founder of the blood snakes is him. That unexpected revelation left everyone perplexed. If this were a TV series, the episode would end here, reunited with the worst kind of people there are. The criminals said there was no point in resisting. At that very moment, Akira brandished his knife. He was about to end the first one's life, putting an end to his mediocre existence. But something happened, which prevented the knife from reaching its target. The poor boy lying on the ground has no strength to understand what happened. Our protagonist intercepted that blow, preventing something worse from happening. Akira recognized him immediately and asked why our boy was still so energetic. Kyomi told him that he had lost his appetite, also showing that he had a mobile phone, which surprised the villain. Ikai no is also in the company of our protagonist and never thought things would end up like this. However, Akira felt quite excited about what was happening. Realizing that his phone had been stolen, Akira understood that the day's plan had been leaked. He also said that our protagonist is a compulsive thief, and apparently he did not share that information with other people, a clear sign that he still does not understand the gravity of his own situation. Kyomi, unfortunately, has to agree with that, as he could not unlock the phone. He only managed to access part of the message, as he could not risk other conspirators discovering what he knew. And Chino said that, even if they didn't know everything, she had a hunch about it, and pointed to the poison alchemist. He believes he was responsible for contaminating everyone's food. Very nonchalantly, he showed a small vial he was carrying with him, and demonstrated that this substance was responsible for everything that happened. Applauding like a great narcissist, Akira said he should praise his effort, revealing that those two can't do anything against all these enemies, especially when one of them is only D-level. Assuming a truly arrogant attitude, everyone started laughing at our protagonist. Ikenos became very worried and said that she would buy time for our boy while taking her arrows. She said that he had to report everything to the competent authorities. Kyomi refuses to comply with these orders, saying that he was hired to deal with those criminals. The girl gets irritated by his stance, but our protagonist told her not to worry and that she should get the news out. Ikai no became even more determined upon receiving Alice's order to protect that boy. Our protagonist appreciates her sincerity. He does not wish for this girl to lose her life prematurely. Akira appeared behind our boy and asked if they were finished talking. As he did not expect such agility, Kyomi was very scared, because it was undoubtedly the move of an assassin. That technique is the shadow step, something that our protagonist knows very well. Akira said that he had been interested in our protagonist for a long time, and also stated that he would end all their lives right there. These words left the newcomers deeply scared, approaching Kyomi intimidatingly. He asked if he thought he was capable of stopping him. At that moment, he called all his henchmen, saying that they could do whatever they wanted with those people, assuring them that they should also entertain Akira with this violence. Right after giving this order, the villain disappeared into the shadows. Now our protagonist has to fight all these extras before he could grab his sword. And Chinos had already taken her position with her arrows in hand and had hit several of those clowns. Her attacks are precise, and some of them already fall to the ground stinking. Still, there were many enemies to defeat. The one with only one eye on his face thought his luck that day was good. The girl is ready to hit the only eye he has left, but our protagonist was not going to let her fight alone. Hearing his name, the girl understood what was going to happen. After crouching down, she let our protagonist finish off some enemies. The battle had barely begun, and several extras had already met their end. Kyomi told the girl that not having a class is the most powerful choice anyone can make. Very surprised by what she had seen, she said, "It is not class that makes us strong. It is our boy who is a prodigy." While they were talking, someone threw a small vial between them. It took them a while to understand what it was. Ikinos had a revelation and told our boy to move away. The vial immediately broke, spreading toxic smoke into the air. Ikinos was now separated from the one she was supposed to protect. The poison weirdo said that he would be her opponent, as they are both a level, and that he wished to resolve all this amicably. The girl was not happy at all with what he had done, and prepared her arrows to pierce the body of that traitor. She made it very clear that she would finish him as soon as possible, but the poison weirdo was not intimidated. For him, strength is not the only factor that defines a battle, and Chino revealed that she never liked the way these weirdos talk. And deviating into absurd discourse, the weirdo said that what matters is personality. Apparently, the Express Alley almost still doesn't know that he is an extra. Still, he threw several poison vials towards the girl, who immediately shot her arrows too, breaking them all while they were still in the air, releasing the contents of those vials, saying that he would never understand such betrayal. One vial in particular did not release any smoke, but upon hitting the ground, it came into contact with the contents of the other vials. This seemed to cause a chain reaction, releasing intense luminous energy. Before Ikinos could comprehend what was happening, she was completely engulfed by a large explosion. The weirdo began to celebrate what had happened, because he was sure that the girl would shoot all his vials, while saying that his poisons could also cause explosions. An arrow lodged itself in his clavicle. Ikinos said that arrows don't always come from the front, and that he was an idiot for blocking his own vision. Now that he had been injured, the weirdo began to worry a lot, because the bleeding from his wound was abundant, revealing the physical constitution of a dying person. He fell defeated to the ground. Ikai wondered if the classless boy was still alive. It was then that she realized that several enemies had already been defeated, understanding that he is a reliable ally on the battlefield. Akira took advantage of that opportunity to attack our boy from behind. He felt something dangerous approaching, but was unable to react quickly. Still, he managed to prevent something worse from happening. However, he received a superficial wound on his chest. Akira said that nothing really happens until he also enters the scene. Our protagonist realized that this jerk is really fast. He will not be able to keep up with him. Ikai did not see these moves either. Worried about her companion, she asked him to flee, as he would not be able to fight him. Shortly after, Akira hid in the shadows again. Kyomi tries to contain any reaction, but a smile escapes him. Akino found that reaction too strange to be true, and our boy is already preparing to attack with his sword. Just as the assassin's shadows also appear, Kyomi threw his sword like a boomerang. Akira did not understand what was happening. That sword lodged itself in his shadow, and he knows exactly what that means to his complete misfortune. Our protagonist was an excellent assassin for several years and knows all his secrets. Akira soon kicked our protagonist's sword. He was not going to ignore that coincidence, and asked how our boy knew the weaknesses of shadow steps. Kyomi said she knew a little about assassins, but that revelation did not satisfy Akira, who sees in our boy a person full of mysteries, about to cut his finger. He asked if he knew what that meant, to inflict a small wound on himself. He dropped his tomato juice towards his shadow. As soon as it came into contact with it, a great reaction began to occur, making those shadows grow even larger. The group of useless beginners remains scared, while Akino watches the fight intently. The shadows created by him grow larger and larger. Kyomi recognized that ability as the dark contract, and as he suspected, that familiar intoxication. His enemy is a contract killer. A surprise attack was already approaching, but our protagonist managed to prevent the worst from happening. Holding the sword with his fingertips, he realized that Akira would become very famous in the next 20 years, and he knows all the tricks he is capable of using. Completely surprising his enemy, he managed to grab one of his hands. Akira does not understand how he saw him in complete darkness. Our protagonist took that opportunity to disarm him. However, he still had the tactical advantage of being in the shadows. But our protagonist received a knife from that assassin as a gift, which he threw towards a small creature flying in the middle of the darkness. That monster is definitely out of combat. It is a familiar, a messenger of shadows, and after being defeated, all that darkness disappeared, leaving only the weapon our protagonist used to exterminate the monster. Ikenos and the others saw the shadow disappear, but they cannot say that it contributed to it. Akira carefully picks up his knife again. He said that our protagonist behaves as if he knows everything about assassins. Kyomi is not interested in telling him the truth. Akira said that our boy is ignoring a fundamental truth. Right after saying that, he lunges furiously at him, but his attack was blocked. As he has the advantage of agility, he continued to pressure our protagonist and kicked him against his defense. The impact of that blow sent him flying. Akira believes that even if he can counterattack, he will not be able to defeat someone of S level. He also said that his effort is completely useless. At that very moment, Ikaino already had her bow fully prepared. She was ready to protect our protagonist with her own life and advised him to flee from that place. Akira, with a sadistic look, is about to end the girl's life. But like a good narcissist, he ended up encountering something that bothered him greatly because he realized that our protagonist was smiling. Kyomi said that what will save him on this occasion is the assassin's low attack power. If he had another class, winning would not be a possibility. Akira, after hearing those words, seemed to agree with that criticism, and with his interest completely renewed in our boy. He asked if he really believed he had a chance to win. Kyomi had gotten up and was moving Ikenos out of his way, looking directly at the narcissist. He answered affirmatively. Now is the time to change the course of that fight. He opened his status, showing that his dexterity was 81 points. Even Ikenos was surprised to see it. Our boy said that the conditions had been met, and that he would now unlock a hidden profession. Those who heard his words could not imagine that this was possible. But indeed, something was happening on the system screen, and the secret profession had been unlocked. Kyomi was receiving an unknown power. Everything he had done so far had conspired to make this moment a reality. He received his new profession, and along with it, an elegant leather coat. Now he is also a very talented craftsman, dazzled by the brilliance of the profession change. Akira asked what that was, and Chinos did not know that there was a profession whose prerequisite was to have no class. But our protagonist affirmed that things are different. He remained without a class because his dexterity increased faster. But the girl has no idea what that means. Akira, for his part, continues to mock, stating that changing professions will not change anything because the skill difference between the two is still very large. Then he throws several knives in the direction of our protagonist. The name of that secret technique is the snake attack. Our protagonist responded with a single word, craft, and right after, he uttered the name of the item he desired, the great troll's sword, and the sword appeared to protect him from the attack, preventing the assassin's knives from reaching him. Akira does not understand how that weapon was summoned. Our protagonist corrected him, saying that he had made it and that it was still too early to be impressed. And he shows him that other swords have also appeared. At that precise moment, Akira's underwear became quite heavy, and Chino realized that the amount of magical power in each of those weapons was simply absurd. Our protagonist invited Akira to attack him one more time, as he would show him the pinnacle of mastery. The assassin wonders what profession this is that can create swords, and our protagonist assured him that the process is different from summoning, or duplicating an object through magic. He is creating everything using his own power. For Akira, all this should be impossible. He cannot believe that someone of his level has surpassed him. Our protagonist asks him if something is wrong, because if Akira is not going to attack, Kyomi will have to take the first step, and then immediately summons a sword made to be wielded by someone 30 meters tall. Given that, there is nothing that can be done. Our protagonist sends the sword in the direction of his enemy, making him intimately familiar with his insides. Akira's waist was not wide enough to support that sword. His body was divided into two asymmetrical parts. However, the fight was not over yet. The assassin's body had turned to stone. Our protagonist knows that technique. He used a clone to avoid the worst. Ikinos is also very surprised by the power our protagonist demonstrates. And hidden in his shadow, Akira is trying to understand how he became so fast, because the situation had become very dangerous for him. Kyomi immediately placed his hands on the ground, summoning something from that place. He drew a luminous sword towards himself. It is not a lightsaber, but its name is the Bright Illuminated Sword. Now that the artifact is in his hands, he can use its full potential, causing a great light to fill the entire place. Revealing the assassin's position, Ikino saw that he was hiding behind her, which terrified her. Our protagonist, now that he knows his position, is ready to continue the combat. Bringing an ice sword to his hands, with several of them he managed to completely surround his enemy's position. Akira tried to escape once more, but our protagonist did not allow it, and threw all those swords in the direction of the criminal. As he tried to flee, the sword hit the ground violently until the poor man ended up stumbling in the middle of his escape. Trying to understand what had happened, he realized that his feet had frozen. The narcissist is now engulfed in fear, wondering once again if our protagonist had no class. Kyomi knows that the enemy's defense and attack are low. His only advantage was his high mobility. With his feet frozen, there is nothing he can do now but die. Of course, staring at him, Kyomi said that it was over for the beta. Producing more ice swords, he was about to end it all. Akira felt the contents of his underwear run down his legs, and the ice swords were ready to fulfill their duty. Akira, in his last reflex, tried to protect himself from the swords with his arms, but they finished him off anyway, turning him into a decorative object in that dungeon. The criminals who were still alive in that place did not know how to react to that. After their leader was defeated, Kyomi politely asked if anyone else wanted to get on the Isekai Express. They immediately began to abandon their weapons. The surrender among those criminals was completely unanimous. No one wanted to face such a formidable enemy. On the other hand, the extras who had been used as bait were celebrating. Now that the situation was under control, Ikinos managed to share the antidote for the poison with her companions. Little by little, they are recovering from the paralysis. Kyomi was entrusted with the task of tying up all the criminals. In a short time, it became even more impressive. Our boy feels very exhausted. The use of his new abilities consumed a large part of his magical power. At that moment, the girl approached him to praise what he had done, and revealed that she was impressed with the power he had shown everyone. She wanted to know what it really was. Kyomi said that he had already explained it to her, but he thought it was not surprising that no one knew the details. Even within 20 years, it will remain complicated. Only people with good connections have access to this information. Ikino wants to know how she will explain what happened there. Our boy will try the version that he got a secret profession and defeated the assassin. This will undoubtedly cause a great stir in the media. Kyomi realized that this could be dangerous, and her friend agreed, as it could turn the world upside down. The only option they have left is to try to talk to Elise and ask her to help keep what happened there a secret. Still, the girl remains curious and asks questions about this secret profession. She wanted to know if she could unlock it too. Our protagonist looks at her thoughtfully. The prerequisite for this profession is good dexterity, and this tribute grows at a different rate for each weapon. Swords are particularly difficult to master. Kyomi benefited greatly from his privileged knowledge from his past life, and from the system's missions. That is why he became a sword artisan. Even if he shared everything he knows with the girl, it would be very difficult to achieve the same results. Being brutally honest, he said that she would not be able to. But that does not mean he would not help her. He promised to teach her something about Bose. In his first experience, our boy interacted a lot with legendary weapons. Ikino became even more curious, as he seemed to know a little about everything. Kyomi assured her that he was just a normal adventurer, but that only increased her curiosity. One thing is certain between them: they must keep what happened there a secret, interrupting their conversation. The useless extras appeared to thank them for their help. They all want to know the name of the person responsible for saving them. They also wanted to know what technique he had used and what his profession was. Ikino realized that keeping everything a secret would be a great challenge. But our protagonist was more optimistic. He revealed his name to them, and also told them that he could not yet reveal everything he had done. In the adventurer headquarters building, news is spreading. It was reported through the news that Akira had been arrested. The general public is very surprised by this revelation. And me too, I swore he had gone to the world of ideas. It was revealed that he organized training with beginners with the intention of killing them all. His allies were also arrested for conspiring with him. Police also suspect that he is the founder of the Blood Snakes, responsible for numerous crimes. He is now being investigated for all these accusations. Due to what happened, everything is quite hectic. The receptionists have to handle a large volume of calls. Everyone wants to know the details. Their workload has increased considerably. It was at that moment that the receptionist saw a familiar person arrive. Our protagonist heads towards her as everyone watches him. He went there to complete his job. He also said that the situation had worsened a bit, so we have to figure out how that will be decided. The receptionist said that the situation is almost out of control. At that very moment, our boy managed to see Alice, who was also there, as they were going to discuss something that required secrecy. She called him to go elsewhere. Our protagonist went to that room where they were already waiting for him. Among those men was Ikenos, who greeted our boy with great enthusiasm. Kyomi could not imagine that she had also been invited to this meeting. Alice noticed that the two had become quite close during this last task, but our boy made it clear that it was not what she thought. He still sees Ikenos as a complete stranger. Alice immediately tried to comfort her and congratulated the girl on the work she had done in the dungeon, as she learned that it had been a more difficult task than they had expected. Before the meeting began, all those men stood up and on behalf of all of them. The man with glasses apologized for the serious logistical failure they had suffered. He did not imagine that a criminal had infiltrated among them. Akira is a genius of deception. Alice said they had no way to react to that still. The man with glasses reinforced his apologies and told our protagonist that there would be additional financial compensation, in addition to promoting him to the next class, making him a C-class adventurer. And Chinos was surprised by this news. Never in history had anyone been promoted so quickly. And seeing our boy's calm expression, she said he should be happier. The man with glasses confirmed that, indeed, there were no precedents for what had happened. For this specific reason, he called 3 representatives to witness what had happened. The first of them is the director of the Adventurer Agency. He also called an S-class hunter, Maeda Goki. And finally, someone our protagonist already knows, Alice herself, very convinced. He asked our protagonist if he realized how incredible she was. But that S-class adventurer was not content with punching the table with great force. He said he hadn't come there to chat. His reaction left Ikenos very scared. How could someone of low level defeat an S-class adventurer? He was very curious to know what that person was like. And so far, all he knows is that he is level 11. Furthermore, he appears to have not selected any profession. All of this is very suspicious. Grabbing our protagonist by his clothes, he suggested that he might be a scammer, just like Akira, and he is interested in knowing what kind of tricks he usually uses. Kyomi politely asked him to let go of his clothes, but that man wants the boy to escape on his own using the power of having no profession. The man of glass is told that fights in that space are completely forbidden, but the director of the agency agrees, as he wants to see the chaos with his own eyes. As he had bet without counting on the protagonist's victory, and Chino said this is a joke, and which must be avoided at all costs before everything gets worse, the extra said there was nothing wrong with it, since our protagonist is in Class C, unless all of this is also a lie. As soon as he finished speaking, he felt shadows behind him. He looked back to see what it was. He realized that he was already completely surrounded by swords. No one knows how they appeared. The poor boy understood that if he made a slip-up in that place, he would be the target of a very painful acupuncture session. Alice shouted at everyone, saying that it was enough, and the poor extra hoped the protagonist would heed her words, as he was unable to move due to his great fear. Alice recommended Goki to abandon the conflict, so he opted for the rational decision, letting go of our protagonist. Now that everything was over, Alice asked if our boy was okay. Goki is one of the weakest among S-class adventurers, so he tries to maintain his position. Kyomi doesn't care about the extra, but he appreciated the concern. Now Alice cannot hide her enthusiasm and wants to know more about the craftsman profession. Kyomi realized that Ikenos is not good at keeping secrets. She apologized, assuring that she had only told Alice the truth. In any case, the two assured her that they would not disclose it and asked her not to get angry. Right after that, our protagonist focused on the agency director. He wants to know if the boy will reveal the information that he has no profession. His answer is negative, and the director asked if money would change his opinion. Kyomi knows that it could become a distraction for other adventurers, like the one who was in that room before. The director said it was truly unfortunate, but as there was nothing else to do there, he declared the meeting over and thanked everyone for their efforts. Alice still has some questions to ask and would like to introduce our boy to someone, assuring him that he would be very surprised, as she wanted to see him again. Kyomi, as soon as he saw that girl, remembered who she was. It is the healer who recruited him at the beginning of the story. Right after that, the two went to a restaurant. They were preparing a table for two, and people were surprised by the presence of that couple. It seems the girl had also earned a great reputation. She asked if it was inconvenient to make such a last-minute invitation, but our protagonist assured her that there was no problem. Only Kyomi cannot hide his surprise at the fame she had earned. It had been a long time since he last saw Naomi. Alice said that the girl had become much stronger after joining the team he suggested. She is already 15 levels above him. Akira wondered if our boy was aware of the healer's revolution. Naomi still has turbulent memories of when they met. Apparently, she somehow became the center of attention. Naomi assured that all this was only possible because she met Kyomi on her path. That's why she managed to become so strong. Alice said that this woman has a request for him and would like to thank him. It was then that she asked if they could go out for dinner together. Kyomi was immediately surprised by this invitation, realizing that it would be just the two of them. And Liz suggested that he go out and relax a bit, as that woman was very grateful to him for all he had done. For a brief moment, he reflected on what to do until he decided to accept her invitation. And Liz said that she would take care of organizing everything. Soon everything would be completely prepared. Now the two are inside the restaurant. Kyomi said that the woman had changed a lot, and that she was now much more radiant. Embarrassed by the compliment, she said it was only possible thanks to him, as he was part of a team with a necromancer. If it weren't for that, she would still be trapped in her past, remembering all the humiliations she had to endure in her current team. She learned to heal the soul, which ended up completely transforming the world around her. Our protagonist already expected something like this to happen. This skill can only be learned in the company of a necromancer, a crucial skill for supporting weak healers who are still in the early stages. In the future, this combination will be very common. And now Naomi is the pioneer in the field. She, who was previously weak, can contribute to her team and now gives hope to healers in the same situation. This made her profession gain popularity. The more healers there are, the fewer deaths there will be. Kyomi said that she had learned a very good skill that made her very happy. He liked seeing that joy. As his order had arrived, he suggested they eat now, and upon tasting some of the pasta, and the girl said it was very tasty. Our protagonist followed her without saying a word. Naomi asked him if he didn't like this cuisine, but our protagonist affirmed that it was delicious. He just wished his sister could try it too, as she had been hospitalized for a long time due to a magical fever. Upon hearing that, Naomi said that healers still had a lot of potential if she could become stronger. She could cure her sister of her illness, and taking our protagonist by the hands, she asked him if he could help her in any way, as he was the one who had changed her life. She wanted to compensate him in some way. Kyomi was very grateful for her attitude, and assured her that, when the time came, he would ask for help, but that kindness was too much for her. Naomi was about to make a request, but she was too embarrassed to say it. Guessing what her words would be, Kyomi accepted immediately, and after that they asked for the bill. The two went to the hotel terrace, where there is a large swimming pool, for God's sake. Alice did not organize just a dinner. She organized a complete honeymoon, and Naomi is happy to be able to use the pool. But she wanted to tell our protagonist other things, and she is trying to gather all the courage she has, until she finally asked if Kyomi has a girlfriend. He didn't want to have that kind of relationship with his sick sister, and not realizing the subtlety on her part, he said he didn't have a girlfriend and didn't plan to have one. Upon hearing that answer, Naomi became very enthusiastic, but soon realized that she had been too emphatic, which embarrassed her deeply. Trying to change the subject immediately, she picked up a ball that was there and threw it in the protagonist's direction, saying they should have fun. Kyomi tried to catch the ball, but he ended up losing his balance on the float he was on and falling clumsily into the pool. Naomi found that scene very amusing and started to smile, while she was distracted. Kyomi managed to grab her by one of her feet and dragged her underwater. The two soon remembered that they needed to breathe oxygen in gaseous form, and they returned to the surface. They were having a great time, and our protagonist was getting too close to the girl, and he asked her if he should show her, With her mind so disturbed, only God knows what she imagined he wanted to show her now. Kyomi began to show his swimming style called the adventurous tuna, but from Naomi's expression, it was not what she would have wanted to see. Outside the pool, a boy said that name was horrible, but for the smitten girl, anything our protagonist did was wonderful. This random man was sure that this couple was definitely very strange. In the middle of the forest, a figure gallops vigorously, and the next day, Ikai no woke up, but she was still very sleepy. In the lobby of the Adventurers Guild, she meets our protagonist and the healer, and Liz is happy with the formation of that new team and congratulates everyone, but they want to know why they have gathered so early. She says that from now on the three of them will have access to B-rank dungeons. If they manage to defeat the cursed underground, she would invite everyone to join her clan, an invitation that leaves both girls very impressed. And Liz said that they are very strict in their selection, and that they would not make it easy. Kyomi assured that he would do his best to join, accompanied by the girls in response. Alice liked the attitude of all of them. Our protagonist began to recall something that happened in the future of his past life. This clan became really great, but it ended up dissolving for some reason. He learned about it through the news, but he cannot remember the true cause. Seeing that our boy was distracted, Akino told herself that it was a privilege for her to be invited, since she is at a lower level, as she is the only one with rank C among them. Finally, our protagonist realized the harsh reality. Alice said that they all had to work together, creating high expectations for everyone to be accepted. Ikai no, even more excited, said she would do her best, but both our protagonist and I think she was already part of the group. Alice said goodbye to them, indicating that the test would begin the next day. Now everyone can leave. If she only wanted to deliver a message, it wasn't necessary to be so early. And Chinos also said goodbye, as she was going to review some strategies, but our protagonist did not allow her to leave, saying that if she had free time, she should stay with them. The girl said, "Our protagonist is not a beginner, and can prepare herself on her own, but he was thinking of her," and affirmed that the archer needed to prepare, assuring that everyone would achieve something very good. Naomi, on the other hand, seems worried about something. Inside a ranked dungeon, they begin to explore. Ikenos did not want to do this on her day off, and also doesn't know why the healer came with them. She still believes that all this will be done for our protagonist. He believes it will be good for everyone. The only thing Naomi can think of is that she likes being in the protagonist's company, and she would like to be useful to him. Looking at the other woman, she decided that she would not lose this competition for attention. After walking for a while, Naomi asked them to be quiet, showing that in the clearing in front of them there was an unconscious creature. Apparently a centaur. That's why they are looking. The creature seems to be resting, which is very beneficial for them. An unexpected task from the system appeared. They have to heal that monster. Our protagonist did not expect something like this, but he realized that it was another absurd mission from the system. So he started to think about it. Cautiously, he asked Naomi to approach as she took her steps. She ended up scaring a grasshopper. The creature flew away, scared, and that noise ended up waking the centaur. Ikai no realized what was coming and lowered her companions before anything worse could happen. That creature had thrown a spear in their direction and was ready to attack once more. Her bow was already prepared and aimed at the invaders. The reaction speed of that creature is truly impressive. None of them expected something like this. Niamey thought that centaurs did not usually attack humans. The information is confirmed by our protagonist, who said that this is not normal. As the creature prepares to attack once more, he tries to tell them that they are not there to fight. These words made the creature hold back its attack, and right after that, it fell to the ground as if it were quite weakened. Naomi realized that the creature was suffering some kind of pain. Our protagonist was also able to perceive it. They all decided to approach the creature, but with great caution. Kyomi asked if the archer heard anything. She replied that she didn't, asking if she should worry about something. Right after that, she felt a sting in her leg, which began to burn intensely. Our protagonist was worried about what had happened, and then they realized that the one responsible for weakening the centaur had revealed itself to them. A giant wasp with a huge stinger. That threatening monster is a C-rank creature. Kyomi immediately used her craftsman skill to create the demonic sword Muramasa, and with it he tried to hit that creature, but the monstrous insect managed to gain altitude, avoiding being hit by the blow. It was then that our protagonist remembered that he did not need to wield his weapons, sending the sword in the direction of the creature. Meanwhile, the monster began to release spores into the air. Seeing her companions coughing, she began to wonder if that decision had been the right one. since the dust was toxic and that monster was too powerful an enemy. She would have to retreat now, but Ikenos was too far from all of them, with the poison from the sting spreading throughout her body, and several creatures were gathering around her. Creating a lightning sword, our protagonist struck all those creatures with lightning, clearing the path to get closer to the girl. He thought the dungeon would be easy, but he ended up being careless. Right after saying that, she felt that the pain in her body had disappeared. All this was thanks to the healer's technique, which managed to cure her completely. Even our protagonist was impressed. She thought the skill had a large area of effect, but Naomi explained that she had used it on each of them individually. Unfortunately, she is not capable of conjuring resistance to poison, and in this situation, she needs to use her skill continuously. Kyomi realized that she was minimizing the effects of the poison, and that they had to finish the fight before Naomi completely exhausted her mana. Kyomi asked if Ikai no could finish that creature. The largest of them is the queen, which paralyzes its victims. The smaller monsters go on the attack. Our protagonist assured that he would take care of the smaller ones and leave the main one to his companion. The lightning strikes are very effective against those creatures, but it's not that easy to hit them all. Akino tries to provoke her enemies by shooting arrows in their direction, hitting some on the wings of the queen wasp, which was more than enough to provoke its wrath. Ikai no realized that she had not caused much damage, and that the time they had to fight was scarce. The creature was already heading towards her lethally. That charge ended up hitting the girl head-on, and due to the impact, it sent her flying. Seeing what had happened, Kyomi worried about her, but Ikai no assured him that she was fine. It was then that she realized that her bow had been destroyed, and that now she had no way to attack that creature. Ikenos realized that she had to act quickly, and that her options were limited. At that moment, someone grabbed her arm. It was the centaur they planned to rescue. The creature lent her its own bow so that Ikenos could protect herself. She did not expect such help, and as the danger approached, Kyomi once again crafted a great sword to serve as protection. This prevented the queen wasp from hitting Ikenos while she was unarmed. She now has the perfect opportunity to counterattack that monster, preparing her arrow to shoot. And she shot in the direction of the creature. Her accuracy was perfect. The projectile pierced the monster's skull. Definitely, there is no way the queen wasp can recover from such extensive damage. As its body fell to the ground, Kyomi approached to deliver the final blow, turning that creature's body into a large organic puzzle. Despite being an intense battle, it had finally come to an end, before the healer completely exhausted her mana. Knowing that she was very exhausted from what she had done, Ikai no apologized for what she was about to ask. But Naomi needed to help that creature that was suffering a lot. Our protagonist also asked her if she could hold on a little longer, and the healer said yes. Extending her staff over the centaur, the healing process began. In a few seconds, the creature fully recovered its vigor. The system informed our protagonist that the task had been completed, and as a reward, he received another key. Ikenos was not only grateful for the help, but also relieved that the centaur had been healed. Upon returning the bow to the centaur, its gesture was rejected. It was as if the creature was giving her a gift. After doing so, the centaur continued its way through the forest, leaving behind a very surprised Ikenos. Our protagonist saw what had happened and affirmed that that bow was the best equipment for archers. He asked her if she remembered what he had said earlier about bows. Centauros make their bows using their own magic. This makes these tools better than any other made by human hands. Moreover, it is not an easy artifact to obtain. Our boy's initial goal was to steal this bow. After saying that our protagonist is an evil person, Ikai no began to examine that incredible equipment more closely. Naomi also found it incredible that she had received it from a centaur. Her enthusiasm made the girl happy. Ikai no did not expect the healer to go to that dungeon too, but she is relieved that she participated in it, and she recognized her incredible ability to use magic continuously. Naomi, who was still not used to receiving compliments, began to cry with happiness. Ikai no was very worried about this, and while our protagonist was relieved that everything had gone well, he then looked at the arrow that the centaur had shot in his direction. He hadn't noticed it before, but the creature had hit one of those wasps. Now everything started to make sense to him. The centaur never intended to attack them from the beginning. In fact, it did so to protect them. Now she can walk freely through the forest without being bothered by unpleasant insects. The next day, everyone meets at the adventurer's building, and Liz is very enthusiastic because now they will begin the test to be accepted into her clan. Our protagonist and his team are very motivated, and Liz wished everyone good luck, hoping to see them again with good news in the future. Kyomi asks her friends to give their best, and Chino believes that with her new bow everything is possible. They are inside the B-rank dungeon, the cursed underground. The place looks like an abandoned cemetery, and Chino, who was previously optimistic, is completely terrified by the decoration of that place. The sound of bats flying caused her great fear when asked about it, saying that everything was fine. Our boy realized that her confidence had disappeared. That place was full of undead creatures. Ghost types are immune to physical attacks, and our protagonist is not good at fighting them. Ikai no got even more scared, to the point of comforting herself with the idea that they are just monsters, and they can be defeated. Naomi realized that her friend's fear was based on the movies she had seen. In any case, she held out her hand to reassure her, as being a healer. She had worked for a long time alongside a necromancer and was used to it. As they walked through the place, she began to try to leave, but our protagonist stopped her advance. Realizing that some zombies were trying to appear, these monsters are C-rank, and they are potentially dangerous, and Chino tried to control her fear, aiming an arrow at the creatures. But before preparing her attack, she stumbled upon something under a tree. That figure was much more threatening than she expected, and it left the girl completely terrified. Kyomi tried to tell her to leave that kind of reaction for later, as the monsters were ready to attack. He crafted another sword for this Excalibur, advancing against the creatures in a brutal manner. And overwhelming, all those who were cut by this sword burned with holy flames. There is something the healer immediately recognized, and now she is even more impressed with our boy. The figure under the tree disappeared again, which only served to further frighten Ikanos. Kyomi said that the strength of an artisan lies in the compatibility of the weapon they desire, and that powerful attributes consume a lot of magic, and there was still one problem to solve. The spirit of one of those bodies was being called again, heading towards a creature that was also in that cemetery. And as it approached that other monster, it was as if that soul had been consumed. These rank creatures are soul eaters. Our protagonist knows the disadvantage he has against creatures that have no physical form. Ikai no was desperate because she didn't know how to deal with it. While they argue, the healer knows exactly what to do, preparing a great spell in that place. The brilliance of her technique immediately blinded all the creatures. That light was capable of annihilating monsters as if it were erasing shadows. The power was concentrated at the tip of her staff. The technique she used is soul healing. All that remained was the shroud that those monsters wore. Ikanos never imagined that a healer could do that. Naomi said that soul healing is a very powerful enchantment, capable of healing even the souls of the dead, which is lethal to them. She only managed to learn this technique thanks to our protagonist's intervention. Now Ikanos can understand why she is a revolutionary healer. It is truly incredible. Even our protagonist is surprised by this. Naomi became stronger than he expected. Perhaps they can defeat that creature. But their thoughts were soon interrupted by ominous sounds coming from the cemetery. There are more creatures in that place than they expected. Kyomi decided that the best option was to start moving to distract those monsters. After walking for a few more moments, they ended up facing a dead end. Ikai no panicked again, and while running her hands along the wall, Kyomi knew that there was a passageway there. As things had changed, he apologized to his team as it would now be necessary to fight. And the monsters were getting closer and closer. Naomi heard the sound of someone singing. The one responsible for it was a creature that was located behind the others. Ikai no was terrified because she had seen that creature under the tree. Kyomi knows that creature is the king of the dead and did not expect to encounter it in this place. There is little information about it. The little that is known is that even S-rank adventurers can be defeated by it. He ordered everyone to cover their ears because he did not know what could happen. Naime, for her part, did not, since nothing had happened so far. She began to distinguish the words of that song, which spoke of the sealed soul, as the monsters fell to the ground. It was a call for everyone to return to him. The king of the dead is the only creature left in that place, and he began to use his magic in the direction of our protagonist. He and his companions were enveloped in a blue glow. Right after, everyone was pushed by a mysterious force that violently hit them against the wall behind them. Akino realized that her body was passing through it, which the others also noticed. Causing her great distress, Kyomi did not imagine that monster was so dangerous, and is waiting to see what the king of the dead will do with them. Everyone was passing through the wall without knowing what was causing it. Once inside, they fell to the ground, still surrounded by that mysterious energy, realizing that they were in a completely different room. It seemed to be some kind of secret environment just behind them. The King of the Dead also arrived. At first, the creature did not seem hostile or dangerous. Still, everyone was prepared to continue fighting. But at the creature's hesitation, they decided to stand still too, wondering what it was planning, until the King of the Dead extended his hand towards them, asking Naomi to share her power. Faced with that proposal, the girl became thoughtful, while her friend was deeply terrified. The King of the Dead was talking about the liberation of souls, showing them a lantern that held another creature. Our protagonist realized that it was the soul catcher and also the boss creature of that dungeon. Ikenos found that creature quite terrifying, Naomi. On the other hand, she doesn't know what soul liberation is. Our protagonist said that monster captures the souls of the dead and uses them as magical power. The imprisoned souls become the raw material of its magic, which grants it immense power. Somehow, the King of the Dead wishes to cut off this power, and this can be achieved through soul healing, as it transforms the souls of the dead into a powerful cure. Naomi never imagined that her technique could cause something like this. Understanding the King of the Dead's purpose, our protagonist asked if his hypothesis was correct, and it seems that is exactly what the creature desires. Ikenos realized that our boy knows a lot about that place and doubts that it is the first time he has faced something like this. The King of the Dead walked past our protagonist's team as if showing him a path, and placed his hand on the nearest wall. Little by little, a secret passageway was revealed, showing the path our protagonist should follow. He immediately thought that they were heading towards the dungeon boss. Now he and his team are traveling down that path. After passing through the dark corridor, they all reached a new compartment. The air in that place was filled with souls, and in the center of the room, the soul catcher was sitting on a throne. As soon as it saw those humans, its eyes filled with a malevolent glow. The creature was ready for combat, and it advanced towards them. This monster is an A-rank creature. The pressure of its power is truly overwhelming. Our protagonist said that if they followed the plan, everything would go well. Now is the time to start acting. Naomi immediately began to prepare her enchantments, which made the creature react aggressively against all of them, sending its power in an aggressive manner. The souls that were imprisoned are heading towards our protagonist's team, and Ikeino is still very scared by the nature of that place, while our protagonist realized that the range of that attack is exceptional. Perhaps they cannot protect themselves from it, but they were surprised by the existence of a powerful shield. This protection was caused by the King of the Dead, who used the soul curtain to protect them. Our protagonist's team was surprised by what they were witnessing, because that monster was helping them all. There seems to be a purpose to these actions, but the soul catcher does not plan to cooperate with humans, directing its aggressiveness also towards the King of Souls, as it was strengthening itself with the souls it had captured on its journey. Kyomi realized that the lantern was the source of all its magical power. As long as the creature possessed the object, its attacks would be endless, and the King of the Dead could not withstand that pressure for long. Still, the creature was doing its best to help our protagonist's team. Finally, Naomi's enchantment was completed, and she was ready to attack, using soul healing on all the souls flying around that place. That immediately caused a reaction in the lantern that the creature was holding. At the same time, its allies were strengthening, and Chino was filled with great confidence, aiming her bow at the boss creature, feeling that nothing could make her lose. And she shot an arrow coated in fire at the monster. The creature tried to use its lantern to protect itself from that attack, using the same technique as the King of the Dead, the soul curtain, but its defensive capabilities had been reduced, and Akino's arrow turned out to be stronger than that magical barrier, brutally hitting the creature's head, which began to writhe in pain. Still, it wasn't enough to defeat it, and Akino's was impressed with the power that Bao gave to her attacks, preparing to attack once more, believing that they could overcome that barrier. It was then that the dungeon boss revealed its great greed, stating that all souls belonged to it, attacking our protagonist and his team again, this time using its chains. In this way, it managed to imprison one of the archer's arms. Surprised by this attack, she ended up being dragged by the creature. As soon as it brought her closer, it grabbed the girl by the hair and brandishing its lantern with the other hand. It tried to steal her soul, initiating a painful process. Naomi immediately worried about her companion. At that moment, our protagonist managed to act, as the creature had ignored his presence, paying for its mistake with the loss of one of its arms. The poor creature writhed in pain, now having to learn to write with another hand. Its attack was imbued with additional power, thanks to the excess magic. Then it would manifest the full potential of its new abilities. The creature realized that the cut was not normal, as its arm burned with a different energy that spread throughout its body. Kyomi noticed that the holy power of his sword was spreading further and further, but this time it was much more powerful. Taking advantage of the creature's moment of weakness, he used that opportunity to continue pressing with his attacks. The monster realized what was happening, and before receiving another blow, it used the imprisoned souls as raw material. To our protagonist's surprise, the creature completely regenerated the arm it had lost, fully restoring the damage it had sustained up to that point. That made our boy abort the attack halfway, realizing that the boss creature could surprise him. His moment of hesitation was met with a surprise attack. Due to the creature's proximity and reaction speed, he could not dodge it, and the soul catcher continued to press brutally, launching a large volume of attacks against our protagonist. Amidst those explosions, his companions tried to take shelter. After finishing its attack, it gathered the imprisoned souls around it, believing that it had defeated one of the humans. The soul catcher began to smile maliciously, but was surprised by our boy's voice, who had discovered that those attacks were not capable of harming him. As soon as he saw our protagonist completely unharmed, the soul catcher felt confused. It tried to attack him once more, but Naomi managed to intercept its actions, using soul healing to block it. The healer with this skill is the natural enemy of a monster like that, and Kyomi was now in a position to take advantage of this beautiful opportunity, delivering a precise cut to the creature's neck, promoting the separation between its head and its body, given the magnitude of the damage. The creature's body could not continue its attacks, knowing that it had achieved victory through its effort. Our boy sheathed his sword. His group immediately began to celebrate what had happened. The soul catcher's lantern fell to the ground, and its body began to disappear slowly, until the only thing left in that place was the artifact it had left behind. Our protagonist approached it to destroy it with his sword. That symbolic gesture freed all the souls that had been imprisoned and enslaved. His friends watched as the souls changed color, while the King of Souls looked relieved. The souls that had been imprisoned were all returning to him. It seemed that this had brought peace to this creature, not only to him, but to all those souls that were being tormented by the catcher. From inside the lantern, a small silhouette began to form, as if it were a person. The Soul King, as soon as he saw this happen, approached this existence with great joy, hugging someone he hadn't seen in a long time. After sheathing his sword, Kyomi was impressed by what he was witnessing. It was as if a mother had finally reunited with her child, whom she hadn't seen in a long time. Now that this had happened, the Soul King thanked these humans for the help they had provided him, slowly disappearing before their eyes, leaving behind a blue glow. Kyomi wished he had understood better what had just happened there. Naomi began to smile discreetly, as she found it very moving. It was the first time in his entire life that a demon thanked him for his help, and in fact, it was the first time for all of them in that regard. Now they could finally go home, already at the adventurer's office. They were greeted by Alice, who congratulated them all for completing that task. And now they are official members of her clan, the Carnelian Fury. As soon as they heard this, the girls began to celebrate, as it was a great achievement. But since our protagonist was not with them, they decided to wait for him to celebrate what had happened. But there were many people around. They were all journalists who wanted to know the news about the adventurers who had joined this great clan. They wanted to know the details of what had happened in the cursed underground, as even S-class adventurers faced difficulties there. This effect and the presence of the revolutionary healer are the topics of the moment. Everyone wanted to know how this topic had spread, and now the journalists were bombarding these girls with questions. While this was happening, our protagonist approached them. Addressing Alice, he asked what all the fuss was about. She replied that the journalists had come to gather information about the latest actions of her group, and Chinos immediately pointed to our boy to serve as bait for the journalists, stating that he was responsible for defeating the dungeon. Some of those journalists knew that our protagonist was classless, and that he was also in rank C, so they continued asking questions to Akinos, completely ignoring our protagonist, believing that she was very magnanimous for bringing someone weaker into that dungeon, imagining that she must be a great leader. It wasn't long before our protagonist's phone started ringing. He immediately answered the call. After hearing a few words, he was quite surprised. Alice, who was beside him, noticed that reaction and asked if something bad had happened. Our boy couldn't answer. He simply dropped the phone on the floor and ran towards the exit. Alice looked at the phone, thinking that perhaps she could extract information from that device. Outside, our protagonist continued to run desperately. He was heading towards his sister. Something had happened to her. This made him go directly to the hospital. The girl's condition had worsened. Her blood pressure had dropped significantly, and her heart was weak. The doctors were doing their best to reverse her situation. Kyomi finally managed to reach the hospital and was heading to his sister's room. One of the doctors informed him that he had to wait outside, but our boy insisted on going in. Even though they insisted that the door was closed before his eyes, all that was left for our boy was to wait outside, hoping that everything would turn out well. He was very disappointed with what had happened. He did not imagine that his sister's symptoms would worsen so quickly. Remembering the words of the Elf King, he began to wonder if the alchemist had not yet arrived. While he was completely desolate, the man approached our boy, and after calling him by name, it seemed he had something to tell him. And he handed a phone to our boy. Kiani immediately realized that it was his personal device. As soon as he took the phone in his hands, he saw that there was a call he had to answer. The man advised our protagonist to answer it. Still very confused by everything that had happened, he decided to obey. On the other end of the line, the voice revealed that they knew about his sister's condition, because in his haste to leave, Kiani had left his phone behind. It was then that he realized he was talking to Alice. He also heard a lot of noise on the other side, quite confused by everything that was happening. He asked her what she was trying to tell him, and the same man who had handed him the phone pointed in the direction of the hallway, where there was a window. Our boy headed there and saw that a helicopter was approaching the hospital. Alice decided to help her friend in any way necessary, because now he is also a member of her clan. In one of Alice's hands was a golden artifact, and it seemed that the symbol formed by crossed swords represented her clan. The doctors she had brought to the hospital entered Natsu's room. The doctors, trying to reverse the girl's condition, asked who they were, but these men said they would take care of the situation from now on. This immediately caused some unease among the traditional doctors, until they realized that they were facing the dream team. The magic doctors who gained great notoriety after Mana appeared in this world, capable of curing incurable diseases. The traditional doctors realized that these men were better suited for this task, so they decided to trust what they could offer, leaving Natsu in their care. They quickly realized that the Mana Vortex had reached Phase 3, and that they had to initiate the drainage procedure. Outside, in the hallway, the traditional doctors began to wonder why such important people had appeared. Alice tries to comfort our protagonist, assuring him that these professionals are very competent. Still, our boy finds it very difficult to shake off the feeling of helplessness. Sitting in that hallway is an extremely distressing experience for him. Finally, the magic doctors came out of the patient's room. Kyomi asked the first of them about his sister's condition, and the doctor told him that they had managed to stabilize the girl, and that she would recover soon. Receiving that good news was so unexpected that it left our boy speechless. But he managed to thank the doctor, who told him that they had only come to that hospital because of Alice, and that if he wanted to thank anyone, he should thank her. But she assured our protagonist that he shouldn't worry, since it was in her nature to help her companions. To our boy's surprise, it was confirmed that this was exactly what she did. She also had things to tell him, stating that she would never leave him alone after having helped him in this situation. That is the driving force behind all his growth, taking care of his sister's health. Our boy's emotional defenses shattered, feeling indebted to Alice. The woman enjoyed seeing that embarrassed expression on our protagonist's face, who, after managing to compose himself, revealed that he was grateful for the help he had received, leaving Alice very satisfied as she finished talking with the doctors. Our boy entered a process of introspection as he approached Alice again. He asked her to lend him a little more of her power, because he knows that he still needs to do something to save his sister definitively. It was the first time our protagonist asked her for something that was not for someone else, and she felt honored by it. When asking our boy to tell her what it was, she realized that the affection in his actions translated the sincerity of what he felt. Perhaps she should reveal her secrets to him soon, because she is a woman he can trust. So he said that he knew how to cure that disease, but for that to happen, they needed the skills of a talented alchemist. Kyomi asked Alice if she knew anyone with those characteristics. After thinking for a moment, she revealed that she had never heard of that profession until now. Kyomi had already expected something like this, as that profession has not yet been discovered. Remembering the keys he received from the system, he realized that he had to return to the world of elves, since that profession is the key to the cure, which is obtained through lunar magic stones. Alice had heard of this ministry before. She just didn't imagine it also had this kind of function. Kyomi asked her if she didn't doubt his words, and she replied that she understood that he was a man full of secrets. and that he did not need to reveal the whole truth to her, because something Alice would not do is abandon her friends. And looking at our boy, she affirmed that she once saw someone change the structure of mana stones. As soon as he heard that, he was immediately surprised. He couldn't tell if it was that kind of skill our boy was looking for, but one thing she was sure of, it was worth investigating, imagining that this could be the only solution. Kyomi agreed with her. Alice told our boy to prepare himself, as the person they were going to meet was a bit self-centered. This important person is inside a luxury car and is heading directly to Tokyo University Hospital. His name is Kazaki Tera, a renowned doctor associated with the university hospital. As soon as he arrived at that place, several journalists began to approach him because they were interested in knowing his latest discovery, a new drug developed by him. Everyone wanted to know more about this very talented young man. Being in front of those spotlights is something too pleasant for his ego. His answer to all questions is the same. All this is caused by his excessive talent. Dismissing the journalists, he announced that he had an unmissable appointment, and the local security had to push them away. That man is full of great confidence, believing that his talent is a gift from God himself. After entering his office, the secretary informed him that the reward for the new drug was on his desk. As a result of his achievements, he frequently receives large sums of money. There was a large envelope on his desk, and he picked it up with his hands just to make sure it was more money. As he smelled those freshly printed bills, he felt the most sublime pleasure for him. That was true happiness for him. That was his true talent, just like his skill in alchemy. As he contemplated the money he had received, his phone started ringing. He immediately answered the call, since it was his father who wanted to know if he had free time that day, because someone wanted to meet him. Kazaki found it very unexpected and asked about the identity of this person. Not even his father knew who it was. The only thing he could affirm was that it was someone with great authority. The doctor found this information very annoying, but his father told him that it was urgent, and that he only had to meet one person. He decided to cooperate with his father, who told him that he would send him more information, and ended the call. Kazaki became increasingly interested in the identity of this person, and could gain favors from his father, who was a major politician. It wasn't long before he received the information, and discovered that it was a C-rank adventurer. The egocentric doctor was expecting someone more important. Later that same day, his secretary informed him that the guest had arrived. Kazaki asked her to let him in immediately. Our protagonist presents himself before him, humbly thanking him for the time he has dedicated to this meeting. Kazaki also introduces himself and asks what urgent matter that person wishes to discuss. And as he is a very busy person, he wanted our protagonist to get straight to the point. Kyomi said he needed an alchemist, which made the doctor thoughtful. Our protagonist said that someone mentioned that he might have that kind of skill, but that it's okay if he doesn't know what it is. If that is the case, their conversation can already be considered concluded. Kazaki seems interested in this topic. Getting up from his chair, he says he doesn't know what connections our protagonist has, but that this person undoubtedly knows too much, and that his intuition was correct. Our protagonist was surprised that he could actually be an alchemist. Kazaki said that this is the first profession in the world. He is also an adventurer, and his class is alchemist. Kyomi is now more enthusiastic, as he is getting closer to achieving his goals. The doctor asked him what our boy wanted. Kyomi said he intended to create a specific medicine. As this man is driven by greed, he asked how much they were talking about. His reaction was completely unexpected for our boy. The doctor said that his talent is not cheap, and that he has a lot of influence in the pharmaceutical field, and he wanted to know if the boy understood what was being said, without considering that person's greed. Kyomi said he didn't understand, which ended up irritating Kazaki a bit. Our protagonist thought that he was a doctor, and that if money was something relevant in this conversation. Our protagonist cannot pay much, but he can give him very useful information, which would be valuable to him. Kazaki began to belittle what our protagonist could offer him, and said that, if he couldn't use money, that conversation couldn't continue. He did it to put some pressure on the negotiation, and then told our protagonist to leave his office. It seems he also used a skill to open the door, which made our boy look back again. At that moment, the doctor quickly approached him. He tried to hit him with a kick, but his attack was blocked. Kazaki did not expect such a reaction. In addition to containing his attack, he was pushed backward, falling onto his desk in a completely clumsy manner. He did not expect so much strength from someone who was only in Class C. Our protagonist definitely has a lot to teach this poor soul. Kazaki had completely ruined the negotiation, and even after what he had done, Kyomi asked him for the favor of lending him his skills. But that miser refuses to help someone poor who cannot pay him, and who has nothing to resolve with our protagonist. After hearing those words, he realized that he is just a greedy man attached to money. Kazaki said that money is the most important thing in the world, and that it is more valuable than life. Our protagonist is already at the limit of his patience, but he decided to have a little fun. Then he pointed his finger at the avaricious man's face and told him that if he did what he taught him, he could earn an astronomical amount of money. After hearing that sentence, the weak point of that avaricious man was violently pressed. Our protagonist claimed to have the power to predict the future, and the truth is that he was not entirely lying about it. As he knows some things really happened, he said that if Kazaki cooperated with him, he could help him earn a large sum of money. The miser's first impression was that it made no sense, so he refused to believe those words. Our protagonist already expected him not to believe him, realizing that it would be more difficult than Alice had said, but our protagonist could not give up. Now that he had come so far, so he took out his mobile phone. Kazaki wanted to know what he was doing, and our boy told him that he was going to make one of his predictions. The miser arrogantly asked him if he was going to check the weather forecast for that day, but our boy showed him a photo of a particular man, saying that he would be responsible for causing a traffic accident in the future, and that, before escaping, he would run over the victim again with his car and receive severe punishment. Kazaki said that was completely impossible, because he knew that person and knew that he would never do something like that. Our protagonist suggested they make a bet. After taking the envelope where all that money was, he started writing some things, stating that if things happened as he had said, the miser must contact him, and since he wanted to earn a lot of money, he would impatiently wait for it. Finally, he said goodbye to that supposed doctor. Kazaki simply crumpled the envelope, believing that our boy was nothing more than a complete lunatic, and threw the paper in the trash with all the disdain he could muster. The next day, the most abundant news on all channels was about the tragedy predicted by our boy, and that man was the main suspect. Kazaki was still brushing his teeth when he found out. It wasn't long before our protagonist's phone started ringing, who was already waiting for the call. The avaricious man realized that it had really come true and asked our boy what he had done. Kyomi said he had done nothing. All he did was contemplate the future. Now Kazaki had to go to the place our protagonist indicated, as he would be waiting for him to earn a lot of money. The avaricious man's car headed to the place he received on his phone, but it was not what he expected to find, because in that place was the dungeon waste disposal site. Our protagonist was already waiting for his arrival. Kazaki said that no money was made in that place. They were surrounded by garbage. Kyomi immediately corrected this information, saying that dungeon waste is deposited there. Everything came from other dimensions, and current technology is not capable of processing all this matter, so a lot of it remains discarded. But our protagonist assured that, within 3 years, all this would change, because a technology capable of transforming all that matter into biofuel will emerge. But with the power that alchemist possesses, things can be different, and the same result can be achieved in just 1 year. That is the opportunity he will have to monopolize the entire business chain. Kazaki felt his greed grow as never before, believing that he would not be deceived by something like that. He thought our protagonist wanted to use his talent to get rich, and thus not be deceived by someone less greedy than him. Using his power, he destroyed a large mountain of garbage. Our boy was impressed by what was happening, because the man's technique transformed that organic matter into a golem. Believing that he was being deceived once again, he did not forgive our boy and made his creature attack him. Kyomi managed to escape the first attack easily, but after seeing that, he was sure of one thing. That opponent was indeed an alchemist, and now Kyomi would use his craftsman skills against him. Manifesting the axe sword in his hand, a single cut from that instrument was able to completely destroy the golem. Scattering its pieces everywhere, Kazaki did not expect something like this to happen, and while looking for our protagonist, he could not find him with his sight while looking for him. Worried, he asked if our boy was also a creator, and when answering the question, he said that he could only make swords. Kazaki realized that the voice was approaching, and when looking in the direction of the sound, he threw several swords with both hands on the ground. The miser was using his recombination ability to defend himself, trying to create an earth barrier from the ground. In a short time, a small wall had been erected, and it was able to completely stop those swords. But only for a brief instant. As its structure began to crack, until it was completely destroyed by the swords. Kazaki felt that he could not overcome that force. For a brief instant, he thought the sword would pierce his head, but all that was just a feint by our protagonist. After approaching him and holding his sword with his hands, Kyomi said that it was not his intention to deceive him, making it clear that he wanted to cooperate with that greedy person. He was not asking him to work for free. He was just offering him something equivalent to money. And once again, the greedy person said that money is the most important thing in this world. Even if it is only one coin, everything must be his. And crushing the garbage with his hands, he asked if our protagonist did not agree with this statement. But for our boy, that citizen is just a person with mental problems. After getting up, Kazaki seems less suspicious and tells our protagonist that he will prepare the medicine he desires. Our protagonist confirmed that he really wants to help him. Then Kazaki began to carefully clean his hands, saying that he can remain calm even after getting dirty with garbage. But the truth is that he is still very intrigued by our protagonist's supposed ability to read the future. Moreover, he had never seen that technique of creating things. This individual raises many questions for him, as he was able to overcome someone who was already in rank A. He definitely has much more than a normal person, and it was our protagonist's potential that captured his attention. Now that they seem to agree, Kazaki revealed that he does not believe that garbage can be useful for anything. Making brief calculations, he estimated the cost of the operation and realized that the profits are proportional to the amount he can produce. While trying to think about how to achieve a monopoly on production before this technology is developed, our protagonist realizes that those words sound like gibberish to him. However, Kazaki considers the idea much more promising. If all that is true, that landfill is a gold mine. Kyomi said that his knowledge is only useful for those who can use this information for some purpose, and the avaricious man assured that he will do it all himself. All the profits will be his. He simply does not understand why our protagonist does not use his knowledge of the future to get rich. Only a fool would pass up this opportunity. Our boy simply ignores this comment. Kazaki is also interested in medicine, wondering what our boy managed to see in the future that awaits them, as he is also very interested in witnessing all this. Finally, the two shake hands and our protagonist tells him that he will contact him soon. Finally, everything is falling into place. The next day, the investigation began at the university hospital. Kazaki welcomed our protagonist to his laboratory, and this time he did not just come to meet the greedy person. Alice was also there. The greedy person felt honored by the presence of the president of someone so important. But the woman is also excited to meet him. Upon discovering who the connection behind our boy was, Kyomi also brought a small bag. Inside were the necessary ingredients to make this new medicine, showing the greedy person the lunar magic stones. It is the first time he has seen anything like it. Just by touching them, he could feel a strong magical energy, besides that they were very beautiful. Kyomi said that the stones had not yet been awakened, and that this must be done through the power of the alchemist. Kazaki said that statement was too abstract, but that he would try it anyway. But for that, he would like to know what the effects of that mineral are before awakening it. Kyomi said they are ingredients for treating Manhwa Vortex, which greatly surprised the avaricious, as he knows that this disease has no known cure yet, thinking that it could only be a palliative for the disease. He said he would not help our boy. However, Kyomi assured him that he was telling the truth. The magic of that mineral can completely block the effects of the disease. Alice asked if this is really capable of producing a cure, and once again Kyomi said yes. He is not mistaken about it, but he asked them to try to trust him. Kazaki seems quite hesitant after all this, but his greed began to shout. Seeing our protagonist as a treasure that few have access to, he began to write a message on his phone, and he sent it to someone immediately. Now that he had some explanations about it, he asked what kind of property he should alter in the mineral. Kyomi said he should start with heat, knowing where to start. Kazaki prepares to use his alchemical powers. He brought his hands together, initiating the process, manipulating the mineral with great concentration. Around him, things transformed, and the entire room cooled considerably. Alice attentively observes what is happening, wondering what the final result will be. Why? So far, the moonstone had not yet transformed. Kazaki decided to increase the intensity of the intervention, improving the thermal efficiency of the mineral. This began to produce small, observable changes, thinking that this might be the right way. He continued to try. The outer layer of the mineral disperses heat, so he must focus on the inside of the stone. By changing his focus, the changes became even more noticeable. Now he only had to rearrange that structure, and finally he completed his work. But after doing so, the mineral had its exterior completely destroyed, becoming an almost perfect sphere. And completely shiny. That is the true final result. Kyomi Watch is impressed by what the alchemist has been able to do. Kazaki asks our protagonist if that is enough, and our boy has difficulty hiding his great enthusiasm. Originally, it would take years to develop such a remedy. In the past, he could not fight against time, and his sister ended up dying tragically. And prematurely, very enthusiastically, Kyomi said that, thanks to Lavaro, he will be able to save his sister's life, showing him great gratitude. Alice watched impressed. It is the first time she has seen such a sincere expression on our boy's face, and she realizes that he cares a lot about his own sister. She believes that what she has just witnessed is a historic event, as our protagonist will hardly show that expression again. Only then did he say that this achievement must be handled with care, as it would cause a great stir around the world. Kyomi agrees with this, and prefers to avoid a public announcement for the time being. Kazaki completely disagrees with them, and states that they should publish it immediately, as it is an effective remedy against a disease that terrorizes the world. Our protagonist's sister is not the only victim. People all over the world need this cure. Alice said that our protagonist can see the future, and that he does not want the world to know about his power yet. Kyomi is really worried, but the miser wants to insist. Their meeting was interrupted. A man from outside brought news about what is happening at the hospital. To our protagonist's surprise, there are many people gathered there. Kazaki has the perfect solution for this. He will take all the credit for what has been achieved there. All those people were already there to find out about the new cure discovered for the Manhwa Vortex disease. Alice wants to know what all this means, but the miser, who is also narcissistic, could not resist because they promised him a way to make a lot of money, and indeed, our protagonist assured him that it would be so, but he does not have time to entertain the media of this world. His only priority is to cure his sister, and he asks Kazaki not to mention anything about his family. What surprised Elise is that the miser accepted these conditions, saying that he would do what our protagonist asked him, keeping the truth secret, but he will not miss the opportunity to shine. Once again the center of attention, everyone wants to know how he came up with the cure for that disease. Several researchers were trying to develop a cure, but Kazaki achieved the result before all of them. He says in front of the journalists that this is a contribution to humanity when, in reality, he is happy to have surpassed his competitors. The only thing he can think of is the money he will receive for it. One of the journalists asked him how the treatment he developed works, and it was then that he realized something brutally important. Kazaki forgot to ask our protagonist the details about the remedy and the treatment. He decided to answer what he knows. The treatment is based on magic stones. There is still much uncertainty about the results it produces. Therefore, he will not go into detail. But when everything is finished, he will reveal the truth to the whole world. Inside the hospital, looking out the window, Liz asked our boy if everything was all right because he is responsible for this discovery. And by logic, he should also receive the credit. But here he doesn't care about any of that since his true objective is different: to provide his sister with a normal life. And healthy, the next day the news of that discovery began to spread because the number of patients affected by the Manhwa Vortex is growing considerably. The difference is that now there is a treatment. The report states that Kazaki and his research conglomerate have made a significant contribution to this. In the hospital room where Natsu is, she is completely sedated. Alice and Naomi went there with our protagonist. In their company is also the miser, as he needs to know the details of the treatment. Our protagonist asked how he could also appear on television, and the miser had to explain the basics to the boy. It is just a recording of the interview that took place in the morning. He also managed to alter the properties of the other stones, and was there to deliver them. Naomi found them beautiful. The miser is eager to start the treatment, and asked our boy what he should do. Kyomi said that his work was already finished, which made the miser a little uncomfortable. The next stage is carried out by a magic user, so Naomi is in that room, and she will do her best to help our protagonist, who relies on her talent. Kazaki finds it absurd that the doctor's presence is not necessary, while Alice realizes that he is only there because he does not know how to proceed with the treatment. Still, the miser tries to change the subject, but it is too easy to see through his intention. Our protagonist has high expectations, holding his sister's hand. She managed to open her eyes, but she is very weak, trying to reassure the girl. He tells her that everything will be fine soon, and as she had done so far, Natsu believed his words. Kyomi collected the stones that had been refined and took one of them in his hand. This is the beginning of her true treatment. Using magic, Kyomi placed all the stones on his sister. They began to glow intensely, and shortly after, they began to extract an energy that was in the girl's body. The process seems painful. When that energy is removed, she will be cured, but Naomi also has to start acting. As the energy is being extracted, the healer performs her healing on the girl's body, who immediately began to breathe more calmly in order to carry out the extraction. Our protagonist is consuming a large part of his mana. This is the real reason why he has become stronger, but he realized that perhaps his level was still insufficient. It was too intense for his mana reserves. He realized that he would not be able to handle it. But before he failed, Illy's held him, preventing him from collapsing from exhaustion, and at the same time helped him in the process, telling him that they could not fail now. So she would help him. Kyomi became enthusiastic upon realizing that this time he would really succeed. The treatment continues. The avaricious man noticed that the luminous energy caused by the treatment was getting stronger, until one of those stones began to crack completely. All of them shattered, scattering fragments through the air. It remains to be seen if that was enough to cure Natsu's illness. The avaricious man had hidden behind the curtain and asked if the procedure had worked. Our protagonist believes so, but his sister remains completely still, until she finally managed to say her first words after that. Kyomi is very worried. The first thing she wanted to know is how her sister is, and she said she felt better. Upon removing the oxygen mask from her face, she said she felt no pain. As soon as she finished speaking, her brother hugged her, who was very grateful and excited about what he had done, because now he had managed to prevent his sister from losing her life due to that illness. Naomi was also very moved by the scene. While the avaricious man tried to understand how it had all happened, Alice drags him out, saying they should discuss the details in a more appropriate place, as what was happening inside that room was an intimate moment for both of them. Thanks to that discovery, the previously incurable disease no longer claims victims in the world. Still, the situation remains delicate, and people must continue to be cautious about it. The Kazaki group seeks the collaboration of adventurers to produce the remedy more efficiently, as the main ingredient is the lunar magic stone. A girl was listening to this through her mobile phone. It is Natsu, who had gone for a run after so long in the hospital, and she stopped to take a call from her brother. Kyomi wants to know how she is. The girl states that she still feels no pain and that she has gone out for a run for a while, and she also asks where her brother is. Kyomi is now on the highest mountain on the planet, which greatly impressed his sister. Our boy is about to start the descent route, and Natsu wants to know why he decided to do it. Our protagonist had a rather exotic motivation. The system's most recent task required him to climb the highest mountain, and he received another key for doing so. He said that mountains must be conquered. His sister found that answer strange, but if he's having fun, there's no problem. She also wants to venture into the world. Being able to move freely is wonderful, therefore, she has already decided. She wants to become an adventurer like her older brother, to collect lunar magic stones, and help those who are still sick. Kyomi was very happy to hear these words from his sister. When the girl asked him if he would help her, our protagonist assured her that he would, teaching her how she can become stronger. He said that when he returned home, the two would start climbing together, but Natsu does not yet feel secure enough for it. A few days later, our boy arrived at the Japanese airport. The flight took longer than he expected, and now that he was on solid ground, he began to feel hungry. He thought about inviting his sister to eat with him, but someone was waiting for him there. A woman with a sign is waiting for our protagonist. As soon as he approached her, the woman confirmed his identity. Our boy wants to know who she is, and how she knew he would be at the airport that day. Without answering our protagonist's questions, she tells him that her master is already waiting for him. Kyomi asked her what she would do if he refused, and the woman asked him not to, because her master wishes to show him his gratitude, as he is responsible for developing the cure for the mana vortex. As soon as he heard that, Kyomi began to suspect that person. Upon opening the car door, the woman said that her master already knows the whole truth, and that, if he is interested, he can also enter. Kyomi wanted to resist a little longer, but inside that car there was a lot of food. He is now heading towards this master, whom he does not yet know because those fruits looked extremely appetizing. Almost reaching his destination, he can see a large palace through the car window. That is the residence of the mysterious woman's master. Outside, there are some banners with a specific symbol. Kyomi, as soon as he saw it, he knew where he was. Upon entering the palace, The woman announces Kiyomi's arrival to her master, and he congratulates the young man on his achievement. Kira Dago is an S-class adventurer and apologized to our protagonist for bringing him to that place by force. Impressed by that man's presence, our boy already expected to be received by him. The head of the Frozen Elite. This clan is on the same level as Camilio Rage, and this man approached our protagonist naturally, who can feel his presence, even from a distance, wondering what he wants from this encounter. He was surprised by his sudden approach. Our boy immediately startled, but was surprised to be hugged by Kira, who did it quite emotionally, while our boy has no idea what is happening. The adventurer says that he is his savior, as the medicine he developed was able to save his wife. He was completely desperate, but thanks to that discovery, his family was saved. Now our protagonist understands why he is so emotional. Grateful for having helped in some way, Kira said that his life had changed completely, showing photos of his wife and how happy she looks now. Thanks to this, he can regain his happiness. Our protagonist did not imagine that Kira would cry so easily. The problem is that he doesn't know how that man discovered the truth, as he asked Lavero to keep the secret. As he was about to ask him, he was interrupted by Kira himself, who doesn't know how to express all his gratitude, and he made him the best possible invitation for the boy to join his clan too. That invitation is completely unexpected. Our boy said he was honored, but that he already belonged to a clan. Kara said that he has something that others do not possess, an effective clue on how to reach the S-level dungeon, the Abyss. As soon as he heard those words, our protagonist was surprised. The path leading to the dungeon, which has been closed for several years, is about to open. Kara asked our protagonist what he thought about it, and if he also wished to join them now. After hearing those words, our protagonist seems undecided. Information about the Abyss is not easily granted, and the door leading to that place is closed, which makes it practically impossible to explore that dungeon, which is practically an unexplored place. But if certain conditions are met, the seal blocking his passage will break. That is all our protagonist knows about it. So he asked if that man really had clues about that place. Kira assured him that everything he had said was true, and to be more precise, he has a clue on how to reach the center of that dungeon, and even though Alice is talented, that is still impossible for her, as the Abyss is the most difficult dungeon that exists today, and the only ones capable of overcoming it are the members of the Frozen Elite clan. Our protagonist realized that the man was very confident. He didn't even ask him what proof he had of it. Kara said that the secret is a monster that inhabits that place, an S-class creature, a mechanical dragon. Our protagonist was immediately surprised by those words, because he knows this creature very well, and he asked Kira how he knew, but the truth is that he was surprised by our protagonist, who seems to know about the mechanical dragon. Kyomi realized that he had to be more discreet, and said that he had heard about it from some rumors. Kira seems to have believed it, and although our protagonist has helped his family a lot, he cannot tell him the truth about it, but if our boy joins his team, he will have access to the whole truth. Our protagonist began to think about it carefully. This situation is complex, because it was the discovery of the mechanical dragon that triggered the event for which he was sent to the past. Now that he has managed to save his sister, he does not wish to encounter this creature again in his life. And other important things are also happening. He met a woman who was becoming increasingly special. In light of all this, he apologized to Kara, who was immediately surprised by our protagonist's reaction. He tried to convince him that this is the pinnacle for any adventurer. It's not just about the mechanical dragon, but about a high-quality dungeon, and he promised to guide him to the highest point. Our boy acknowledges that it is an excellent proposal, but he owes Alice a great favor, and even if he could achieve it someday, he would like to do it in her company if possible. Kara understood our protagonist's point of view, regretting his refusal. He said he couldn't keep insisting, but the truth is he would like to try a little more. Soon they would fight for the monopoly of this dungeon. He revealed that many advances had been made in the world of adventurers, and he asked his secretary to deliver a letter to our boy, because he was also involved in this dynamic. The content of that telegram surprised our protagonist. It was a plan to conquer the Abyss with 5 S-class teams. Kira confirmed that it was a task assigned by the government itself, and that he had received this letter a few days ago. Soon, our protagonist will learn about this through Alice. The government is eager to conquer this place, as it wishes to access the riches that such a dungeon can produce. Kyomi said that adventurers also desire riches, which is true. Kara said that our boy understood the situation. He should start preparing. The stage is set, and he assured that the frozen elite will be the pioneer in entering that dungeon. Our protagonist has other priorities now, but he admires that adventurer's confidence. A few days after this meeting, Alice was summoned elsewhere. She and other leaders meet in the same room as Goki, the citizen who was very embarrassed in the presence of our protagonist. Minnie Startle, representative of the clan bearing his name, is also present, as is Furinoya Hingi, representative of the Man-Weepers, Kiriara himself, who has already been introduced, and the girl who is slowly winning our protagonist's heart. All of them meet with the man in glasses, who is not the director of the adventurers' organization, but someone very important. They are there to discuss the task assigned to them by the government, as it needs the collaboration of these people. The old man laughed at this, as it will be a great challenge for everyone to cooperate, and he began to wonder how many of those present would really be willing to do something like that. Mimi said that the old man is being very rude in expressing himself like that, but he insists on his point of view. Just look at the facial expression of each of them, who undoubtedly hide their true intentions. Better than collaborating is working for one's own reputation. Minnie asked him if there was anything wrong with having ambitions, because everyone wants to be the center of attention. But this is something different. The government asks for cooperation, and she doesn't like it when the elders blame her just for being young. And the old man told her that she was no longer a little girl, which immediately offended Mimi, who adopted a very threatening posture in that place, and asked the old man to repeat what he had said. That was not able to intimidate him, and the old man said he would like to talk to a girl who was truly young. It was then that someone slammed the table to calm them both down. Alice was the one who did it, saying that they should not waste time and that the meeting should proceed as planned. Mimi, although reluctantly, decided to agree. The old man also agreed with this, but he asked to be served a cup of tea. Alice already expected that the interaction between them would not be friendly. Meanwhile, the government pretends that nothing is wrong, but asking them to conquer the abyss gives it a bad feeling. The portal leading to that place is breaking, and the mechanical dragon anxiously awaits the entry of humans. The government representative resumed the presidency of the meeting. The abyss is the first dungeon to appear in the world, and so far, not even the strongest have managed to return from it due to its extreme difficulty. The conditions for opening the seal of its portal are unknown, and no progress has been made in this regard. Furthermore, few people have managed to return from within it, and those who have say there are many minerals in that place, as lunar stones are needed to cure an incurable disease. Its demand has grown significantly. Having access to the abyss can generate a great source of wealth, and the government representative knows that it is not just that, as they could discover minerals capable of completely changing reality. Minnie began to yawn during that meeting, saying it was already boring to hear those desires. The old man told her to stop pretending innocence, as she seemed more interested than anyone there. Once again, she adopted a threatening posture, and the old man told her to be more sincere. And once again, Elise had to intervene in the situation, saying that if they wanted to fight so much in that place, she would gladly contribute to it, as for her it didn't matter who her opponent was. Mimi thought for a few moments, and decided to calm down immediately, as did the old man. And the government representative resumed the meeting, saying that the portal to the abyss had opened, and that now they had the opportunity of a lifetime. The objective of those gathered there was to conquer that place, which worried the adventurer with the cap. Most dungeons have a boss creature in charge of protecting the place. It could be that a truly powerful creature inhabited the interior of the abyss. The government representative believes that those adventurers will be able to defeat it, but that man remains very worried. The man in glasses said that failure is not an option, so they are investing in them, and those who do not wish to participate can stay out of it. Now this adventurer is very undecided. Uriara said there is no need to exaggerate, as all adventurers desire the treasures of that place. Then the meeting attendees began to distribute documents, and confidential information was shared with them. The man with the cap was surprised when he read about the mechanical dragon. Minnie said that if he was so scared, he should abandon this project, but he didn't like that woman underestimating him. Instead, she said that he underestimated someone's ability from Class S, and that he should abandon his post. He ended up slamming the table so hard out of frustration that he broke it, because he didn't like being called weak. Mimi really liked his reaction, as she understood that he was weak, even though she hadn't explicitly said so. Kiriara, seeing the two exchanging insults, began to feel quite embarrassed. It was then that he decided to focus his attention on Alice. She had a feeling that something was coming, and through the window, a creature ended up hitting that place, breaking the glass of that room. Its sudden entry ended up hitting the adventurer with the cap, who was violently thrown against the wall. That seemingly simple impact was enough to injure him. This monster is an A-rank creature, a fragment of Kulikan. The government representative does not know why there is a monster outside the dungeon. Kiriara thought it might be the curse of the abyss. It falls upon all those who try to uncover the secrets of the dungeon, which seems to have a will of its own, with the objective of crushing its invaders. The government representative believes this to be mere superstition, and now the creature has focused its attention on him, attempting to attack him with its claws. But he was saved at the last moment by Kiriara, who managed to move away while carrying that man. And Liz also positioned herself to protect them, as that creature is dangerous. Roaring furiously, it showed its fangs to those people preparing to attack. And Liz this time, but she is confident in her abilities and prepared to defend herself. She realized that the creature was paralyzed. The monster had not yet understood what was happening, but someone was responsible for it, saying that the greedy receive the punishment they deserve. The old man was responsible for this, saying that the punishment would be natural for the creature, that the envoy of the abyss is weak and will receive its punishment. Several threads pierced the creature's body and began to brutally tighten it, until its body was completely severed and its pieces scattered throughout the room. The government representative was disgusted by that scene, but was impressed by the old man's actions. To everyone's surprise, the creature began to speak, saying that it was nothing more than a small scratch. Alice was surprised by these words. While the old man tried to understand what the creature wanted, part of its body transformed into a small sphere, which he tried to pick up with his hands, saying he would keep that artifact, something that the government representative tried to prevent. Kiriara uttered some empty words, interest and curiosity, and Liz asked him what he meant by that. He told her to remember some things, as he had already had his encounters with her, stating that he knows her son. He is not sure if he should inform him of everything, but she thought it was a good opportunity to get to know him better. The old man asked for everyone's attention, saying that they had reached an agreement, and that he would now withdraw, hoping that everyone would do their best to reach the abyss. Our protagonist was called to visit the clan headquarters, and it is the first time he goes to that place where he encountered a large palace, and inside the building he realized that it was very well structured. The man is at the counter trying to get an appointment with the receptionist, and he was duly interrupted by our protagonist, who said he was there to meet Alice. As he referred to her very informally, this left those people astonished. The man next to him asked what business he had come to resolve our protagonist to that place, and he replied that he had been called by Alice herself. In view of our protagonist's behavior, the man said he should call her Takagi. Our boy said he was not a guest in that place, but a member of the clan. Upon learning that our boy was a newcomer, the man became even more irritated, as he should be more formal when referring to the leader, because that was a way of showing respect, and he should not make enemies on his first day. Our boy said that he had his own way of showing respect for others, and that man was becoming increasingly irritated, while our protagonist was no longer interested in him. During their discussion, a girl ended up identifying Kyomi. She approached him with great enthusiasm. The receptionist asked Ikanos if she knew our protagonist and asked for her help in that situation. After approaching, she asked why the two of them were arguing. She simply ordered them both to stop, and the man asked if Ikanos was referring to him, saying that he should be more humble, as he had only recently become a member. Ikanos told our boy that the man was a little resentful because she had some privileges, and that he did not like the arrogant attitude of the two, who were disrespecting Takagi. So he decided to resort to ignorance, saying he would put our protagonist in his place. But before he could understand what had happened, his body was thrown to the ground by our protagonist, who asked him if he was satisfied now, stating once again that he had not come there to play, but had been invited by Alice herself. That man is Class A, and he cannot believe that he was nullified so easily, so he began to wonder what level our protagonist was. As they were talking in that hallway, someone said that Takagi was approaching. She is immediately greeted like a superstar by everyone. The man who had just supported our protagonist bowed to her, and Alice casually approached our boy and asked him if something had happened. Aquino said he was bothering the interns. Alice expected something like that to happen, as some people in that place put her on a pedestal. But as they were having a meeting, she asked our boy to accompany her, and Chinos said goodbye to them, while Alice asked our boy to behave. Both the receptionist and the rude man are surprised by this newcomer, Upstairs, our boy is about to enter the meeting room, and as he was about to open the door, Alice apologized for making them wait. The man inside said it was all right, as she had arrived on time. He finally met Kyomi, saying that Takayui can't stop talking about him. He introduces himself and says his name is Kyomi, and that it is a pleasure to meet our boy. He is an S-class water mage. Alice said he is the brains of the team. Our protagonist finally shook hands with that man, and with that contact alone, Kyomi realized that he was exactly as Takayui had described him. Someone really strong. Now they can start the meeting. Yumi asked if it would be just them, and the boy said yes. The other members started acting, and he said that our protagonist would also cooperate in that. But before explaining everything, he would give him a small report. The clan of the Mad Weavers is trying to monopolize the abyss at this very moment, and Liz had already expected the old man to do something like that, because he had collected a magic stone that had been left behind by the mechanical dragon monster that was defeated. It seems they managed to develop a new type of armament that strengthened their entire clan. As soon as he learned about the mechanical dragon, our boy got scared, and Liz realized that her competitors are generating value with this new armament. And our boy wants to know what happened in that meeting, but decided it would be better to remain silent about it. While he tries to distract himself, and Liz notices what is happening, our boy asked if they were also going to try to enter the abyss, and the young man said yes. However, our protagonist will not join the main team, which had already been formed. Kyomi realized that they have many S-class adventurers, enough to send several without a problem. The mage said that our protagonist will operate with a separate unit, providing him with information about it. Alice considered that strategy to be completely flawless, as they had to deal with a very intelligent old man. Our boy liked what he had seen, and said he would take on that role. Due to what is about to happen, several adventurers are gathering, as the portal had been closed for a long time. A team broke through the curious onlookers, carrying construction materials. A young man almost fell on our protagonist, who politely asked him if he was okay. Our boy was heading towards the portal, and by the bracelet he was wearing on his arm. People know that he is only in Class C. The abyss is practically a death wish. In our boy's past life, he passed through there frequently, but was unable to overcome the shallower levels. Perhaps in this current life, things will happen differently. Once inside that dungeon, he arrived at a place that looked like an infinite hallway. He could feel a familiar presence, and began to think that the Yukan might be there. But there is no time to think about that now. The condition for reaching the next floor is to finish that within the time limit. He cannot say how long it actually is, but he estimates it to be only 10 minutes. In front of him, several adventurers are fighting monsters. He can recognize the Manweaver clan emblem on some of their uniforms. As he sneaks in, it is best that these people do not see him. But as he passed, he thought that all those people were looking for magic stones. It is the first time he has seen the abyss so crowded. On our boy's path, a creature knocked down a pillar, and now that monster is also blocking his path. That is terrible for our boy's plans, because he does not have time to fight it. The creature is about to focus its attention on him, but its face ended up being smashed by another person's attack. This was done by a mage accompanying Naomi. Our boy said that Naomi had saved his life, even though it was the other girl who did it. As she already knows the situation through Alice, she did what she could to help our protagonist, who thanked her. Now that his path was clear, he headed towards the second floor. But he returned to Naomi to tell her something. The girl should be very careful about the shadows. As she is also inside that place, she must be cautious, even though she is talented. Our boy realized that something was following him, and his path was blocked once more. He cannot keep wasting time. Upon crossing the obstacle, there was a hidden adventurer, and those creatures pursuing our boy also passed by him. But one of them had stayed with the adventurer, revealing itself to be a B-class creature capable of adopting the appearance of its target. It has Mimi's appearance, but after possessing someone, it will hunt them down until defeated, which makes this opponent quite problematic. Our protagonist continues to feel that he is being pursued, but he can already see the path leading to the next floor. He needs to keep moving towards his goal. The time required for this has almost run out, and the creature continues to pursue our boy. The door granting access to the next floor is about to close. As there was little time left, Kyomi decided to jump from the stairs, managing to slide through the small opening just after the door closed, but our boy managed to pass to the next level. So far, he is following his team's plan, and for this, he cannot be seen by his competitors. The clan's strategist said that he had to retrieve the treasure hidden in that room. To do this, he has to reach it within the time limit, and given the little knowledge of the place. Our boy executed the plan perfectly. The real challenge will begin now, because that place is full of monsters, and the guardian of the abyss has appeared, and a class creature. Within this creature lies the strategist's true objective, because our boy needs to obtain its core. Preparing for battle, Kyomi immediately crafts a sword. In a few blows, he manages to access the creature's core, but he still needs to defeat his enemy. After leaping into the air, he manages to embed his sword into its armor, ending the battle, letting the creature's core fall to the ground. After collecting that artifact, the first part of the plan was completed, but things were not going as planned. He was not sure if this could be a trap. After inserting the artifact into the designated place, a secret door opened before his eyes, and on the other side were several guardians waiting for our boy, who saw it positively, as all that experience would be gathered by him. Before the combat began, a voice behind him said that all of this was surprising. Our boy turned around very surprised, because the old man was also in his company, and he did not expect to find a secret room in that place. The old man realized that someone was moving in an interesting way, so he decided to follow our boy. Kyomi knows that Genji is the leader of the Manweaver clan, but he doesn't know how he managed to follow him. Upon observing our protagonist, the old man realized that he seemed to know the place, and blindly knew much more. Our boy said he had nothing to discuss with him, and the old man kept insisting on dialogue, saying that they were colleagues in the profession, and that he should share his wisdom with him. At that moment, our boy realized that he had to continue fighting the creatures. He managed to dodge the attack of the first, and shortly after, our boy was completely ignored by the monster, because it thought it was a good idea to attack the old man. Its blow was approaching him, but the old man did not move from where he was, because the creature was completely paralyzed by his abilities. Invisible threads had appeared everywhere, and now he is able to control the body of that monster, which now returned to attack our protagonist. The old man said that his situation was problematic, and hoped that our boy would start cooperating with him. Kyomi realized that the old man was trying to threaten him, saying that this was not the behavior he should have with someone whose cooperation was necessary. The old man said that the young man was being too harsh with his words, saying that an accident could happen in that place, and that type of thing was very common. Now he is using his ability to control all the monsters, but our boy was not intimidated by that. While dodging the attacks, he prepared his sword to attack as well, managing to cut the monsters with great ease. But their numerical advantage makes the whole process quite difficult. The old man realizes that the young man has a talent for dodging. Still, he keeps pushing our protagonist hard, sending monsters against him relentlessly. Kyomi is ready to finish off another one of them, completely destroying that creature's core, leaving only its pieces falling to the ground. To our boy's surprise, the old man's threads managed to gather the monster's pieces, and the old man said he was getting tired. He proposed that our boy give him the information he desired, and that perhaps he could help him. Kyomi has already realized that the monsters are being controlled by the old man's ability, so what he needs is to take down the main body. As he advanced towards the old man, the man's threads clung to the tip of his sword. This is how he managed to change the trajectory of our protagonist, who was being dragged backward by his own sword. Resisting that control, he tried to attack the old man once more. But the old man possesses a disposition that not even the young have. After dodging him this afternoon, Kyomi is determined to keep pressing his enemy by throwing cuts at him with his sword dance technique. Managing to cut the old man for the first time upon receiving this blow, the old man needed to gain distance because our protagonist had not decided to stop attacking. It was then that he realized that he could no longer control his own body. He was completely paralyzed before the old man, who slowly recomposed himself and told him that mediocre swordsmen were no match for him. That technique is the infinite thread. The more the boy moves, the more trapped he will be. The outcome of that battle was decided from the beginning. Our boy saw none of this. The old man said that, because he had been hit in that combat, he would spare his life if he gave him the information he possessed. If he preferred, he could talk about the sword that appeared in the air, in his hands. The old man wants to know how that happened. Our protagonist said he would not tell him the truth, and the old man continued to pressure the boy, telling him that his life could end because of his stubbornness, that he would start with the tips of his fingers. At that precise moment, a system task appeared for our boy, indicating that he had to defeat that insolent old man. Our boy burst out laughing, which piqued the old man's curiosity. The system would not have to ask him twice to do it. It was then that the old man realized that the fight was far from over. Our protagonist not only managed to free himself from those threads, but also fabricated several swords. And these completely cut off the old man's ability, something he had never seen in his entire life. Now that he can move again, our protagonist is ready to win that duel. The old man realized that that overwhelming presence was at the same level as Alice. He made a big mistake by underestimating that newcomer. He tried to get the creature to create a passage through the wall, but the monster's strength is insufficient to produce that kind of damage. Our boy said that room was designed so that no one could leave until the monsters were defeated. That only served to further irritate the old man. He controlled the creatures again, with the intention of defeating our protagonist. To fight them all, he forged the flaming sword Durandal, and with a few blows, those monsters were completely annihilated. The poor old man could not believe what he was seeing. Our protagonist advances furiously against him, while the old man tries to protect himself by creating a shield with his threads. But his protection proved ineffective against that attack, and the old man, who could have collaborated with our boy, ended up suffering a mortal wound as soon as his body fell to the ground. The system said that the task had been completed, and immediately awarded our boy a reward, a magic stone of growth. Now he can focus his attention on what really matters, as there is still work to be done in that place. Subscribe to the channel